Hey, what's up to all you super listeners? I bet you weren't expecting to hear me at the top of the episode, but there's some stuff I want to get out of the way first. So, if you've been following along on Facebook or Twitter, I posted after we recorded this episode that we had some technical difficulties during the recording. So if you missed any of that, this is just me giving you a heads up about the quality of the episode. We all got together to record 2 episodes this day. We were doing our MCU Jeopardy game and our MCU rankings episode. We've got some new equipment recently, which we were trying to use to record, and since we're all amateurs at this whole thing, we definitely didn't use it correctly, which I take the blame for. We didn't test as extensively as we usually do, which I'll sort of get into at the end of this. I'll try to summarize the best I can. During the recording of this episode, I started to panic that Leslie's microphone wasn't being picked up, which I could hear through my headset when we were testing, so I still thought it was just me being paranoid. I played it back when we were done, realized she didn't get picked up at all. It's like her mic wasn't even on. So you can hear her, but she's far away. It took more time to edit. I listened to the Jeopardy recording and realized that not only was Leslie's mic not on, but we had Mike Romano on. His mic did not work either. I couldn't really hear any of them, so I had to scrap that episode. I can't salvage that one. There's not enough there to grab to make it work. So if you're confused to why I mention this as being our next MCU lead-in episode after Jeopardy, or any references to the MCU Jeopardy episode, that's why. We recorded it, but sadly you will never hear it. That being said, we are already trying to plan another MCU-themed Jeopardy game. We owe it to you guys, and because we just have a lot of fun playing it. So we've already got Bradley working on another game as we speak. Hopefully we can get that to you sooner rather than later. Sadly, it will probably have to happen after Endgame, but it will happen. We will get that out. So after all that, I tried my best to salvage this episode. We recorded for about 3.5 hours, so I was trying my best not to have to scrap this one too. Leslie's audio still doesn't sound the best, and Sarah's kind of cuts out here and there at one point. I promise that these are just technical problems, and I'm not sexist. I promise you I'm not sexist. So I really hope you guys can enjoy this episode. We had a lot of fun recording it, and hopefully the subpart audio doesn't distract from our conversation. And as I mentioned earlier about testing, so I kept our test as the cold open so you can hear the exact moment that I knew something was wrong but decided to record anyway. So you can be damn sure that we will be testing the shit out of many episodes to come. I can't guarantee this probably won't happen again because, it's us, but for hopefully the next couple, we will be on top of this and be able to keep things under wraps. But anyway, I've talked enough, so here's our MCU rankings episode. Please enjoy.
Testes, 1, 2. Testes, 1, 2.
Just say testes like 10 more times.
Testes. What's wrong?
I see nothing from you on here. I hear you, but I can see nothing from you.
I'm saying.
So it's hard. No,
Top of it.
I hear it.
Okay.
It's just not showing.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
So I don't know how loud or anything you are, but compared to everybody else. But good enough. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy to Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Lebick. Joining me for this episode is Josh Zorich,
Mr. Movie Slut,
Sara Zorich,
Hello.
Mike Bradley,
hello,
and Leslie Oders.
Hi.
We are convening yet again for our second or third, depending on how you're looking at it, episode for MCU-themed stuff prior to Endgame. This is the one where we're going to try to do our MCU ranking of different categories. So we came up with some categories. We're just going to talk to each other about our favorites and just talk in general, I guess, about MCU-related stuff. Most of the categories are pretty self-explanatory. We can discuss further if we need to when we get them. So we're going to go through. We have top 3 Stan Lee cameos, top 3 supporting characters, top 3 costumes, top 3 Avengers / main cast, top 3 villains, top 3 moments, top 3 fights / battles, top 3 post-credit scenes, top 3 quotes. We have a personal trilogy category, which is I guess, sort of going to be like our thought was like, out of the 21 movies of the MCU, what would be your favorite trilogy to watch? You can mix and match these. We didn't want to have someone pick just the Cap trilogy or Thor trilogy, so you can mix and match 3 movies out of all 21 that you would like to watch in succession. And then we're going to end with top 5 favorite movies of the MCU. So there are no right or wrong answers. There should be hopefully no pressure for anyone to make these lists. And since every MCU movie is fair game, I'm going to throw it out there that this is a spoiler warning for anyone that has not seen all 21 current movies in the MCU. This includes Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel will be fair game for these lists, so if you are falling behind on Captain Marvel stuff, I don't know whether we touch on any of that stuff, but just in case we do, fair warning for spoilers.
So that means my coworker that we discussed during our Captain Marvel review, who that was her very first movie, and she's just starting. So we're about almost 2 weeks past her borrowing Phase 1 from me, and she still has yet to watch Iron Man.
So she should not listen to this episode.
She should probably, I'll tell her in 2.5 years that it's probably safe to now listen to this episode.
Yeah, she can go back and listen to our Captain Marvel review. I don't think we talked about too many other MCU movies, spoilery-wise.
That's true.
And we covered some stuff. See, now I got to go back and listen because that was
I feel like we
now.
covered some theories and some questions that were answered or brought up from other movies and into future movies.
All right, that's fair.
Right,
so she can listen to the spoiler
for that
warning.
one potential listener
You can get our
who's
opinions
not even
about the
hearing
movie and then
this
don't
right
listen.
now. We'll let you know in a couple of years, at the end of Phase 4, when you can finally listen to this.
Yeah. Of course, you got to wonder if she waited this long, if she even cares. She could probably just listen to all the spoilers. It just doesn't matter.
We assume that she's going to listen to this at all.
Yeah,
Right.
She hasn't listened to that one that she's sort of seen that movie for. She's sure as hell not going to listen to this one. All right, so that's your, again, final spoiler warning for anything we may cover. Someone throw an indie spoiler right now.
Wee-oo, spoiler! Wee-oo, spoiler! Something like that.
All right, so we are free to start these categories. We decided on an order prior to recording, so we're going to go Josh first, Sarah second, Mike third, Leslie, and then I'll round out the topics. So we're going to start with top 3 Stan Lee cameos.
Okay, so we're going to go. So I'm presuming, for some of these categories, if I tried to rank least out of the top 3, least favorite to most favorite out of the 3. Others, I just jotted down responses, to be fair. My Stan Lees, I did try to rank. So I'm going to start with number 3 is Captain America: Winter Soldier, the security guard at the Cap / Howling Commandos museum exhibit after Cap steals his old uniform back, and
I'm sure that will be on other people's lists.
that's what I figured. Yeah, this is definitely one category that I thought there'd be a lot of overlap. Given how fan favorites have evolved over the last 5-6 years, especially. So yeah, it's the "Oh, I am so fired" line that he has in his security guard outfit. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 1 and 2 were difficult to go between. Again, I think definitely one of these others is going to be on other people's lists. Most notably, I think we're going to have a lot of ties for number 1 on this. But my number 2 was actually Guardians 2, where he is just the guy. I don't know if he is there an analogous character. He's with the Watchers, and I don't know if that revealed that his character in that moment was then indeed a real analogous character from any of the stories. I just liked it because it gave us the impression, or at least quasi solidified for us, that literally the person that we've seen pop up in all these in one form or another for one reason or another is the same person.
He's watching for the Watchers.
Yeah, it's a cohesive person. For whatever reason, he's in all these different settings and all these different scenarios, and for whatever reason that's happening, it's a consistent thing. And I just like the way that they decided that they were going to allow that to gel into one.
Well, that was a big internet fan theory that was then confirmed in that movie.
Was it prior to that?
Yep.
And then number 1, probably not surprising. A lot of people may, of the other 3 people listening to this also may find this on theirs.
Hi, Eric.
It's and a few years from now, future coworker listening to this in 2022. Number 1 is Tony Stank from Civil War.
The infamous Tony Stank moment.
Yeah. So that's my top 3s. There was many others that I did enjoy. Some that were, I think there was, going back and looking at all of them again last night, I realized some of them are like much more benign than I remember.
Yeah.
They were much more just like, oh, fleeting passing moment, just to stick Stan in there.
Yeah.
And I liked the way they continued to integrate him more, make his appearance quasi-material.
You started having lines in some of these movies.
Yeah, and then the line itself may have had something more to do with the scene and potentially some impact on what was happening. So I liked that as it went on. But yep, there's my 3.
Good 3.
On to Sarah.
Oh, okay. My number 1 was security guard from. See, now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, I'm going to change this.
Hey, you could do it on the fly. We'll never know.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, you told us. Exposed.
Secret's out.
I really like him in Thor Ragnarok when he's the barber, and I just love that because he's just like, now,
That made my list. Yeah.
And then I don't know if it's just like a kind of nostalgia or maybe timing wise, but I really liked the last one in Captain Marvel. It was so simple.
Yeah.
It was so sweet, and so I think that might be why it's. I don't know if in a couple years I'm going to feel the same way, but
I think that the whole tribute to him in the beginning of
yes,
the title card,
the opening
yeah,
movie,
yeah.
Carl.
And you were unsure, like how are they going to do this?
Yeah.
Right, you weren't sure if he had actually filmed this one before he got too bad, before he had to pass, and this was the only one that. It's also amazing because from what I hear, he's going to have one in Endgame.
I think he's got 2 more coming. Endgame and Far From Home is finished shooting when he was still with us.
That'd be kind of romantic for a Spider-Man to be his last one.
Yeah.
But with Captain Marvel, it's the first time he's actually playing himself.
Oh, true.
He's cameoing himself.
Preparing for his own first cameo in a movie.
In a major picture, exactly. So, yeah, that's a good pick.
I think also because I knew how excited you were going to be, Josh, for that particular cameo. For that, just because he had the Mallrats script, and I think that's what made it a better moment for me. Even when I first saw it unfold, is I knew like I wish you would. I couldn't see you at the time, but I just knew the effect it was going to have on you.
Yeah,
that's right. We were separated in the seating arrangements at that point.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely lost my shit at that moment.
So yeah, there's my 3.
Cool. Mike.
So that same one makes my number 1 slot. Throwing back to Mallrats and Kevin Smith and throwing back to his own first cameo in a movie. How can that? It's just so perfect, and just the way that Captain Marvel looks at him in that moment, it's fantastic. My number 2 was Tony Stank. Again, it's multi-layered more than people give it credit for, because in the other Iron Man movies, Tony keeps mistaking him for people.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Parallel
there.
So, he sees him as Hugh Hefner, he sees him as Larry King, and then, it's like a kick in the pants back. He gets to go and be like, is this for Tony Stank?
Oh, yes, right here. Table for 1, Mr. Stank.
And, and honestly, it's sold perfectly by Don Cheadle, who sells exactly the way a friend would react to that happening.
Yeah. That's true. That helps.
And it's fantastic. In my 3rd spot is from Age of Ultron, where he takes the 1,000-year aged, not for mortal men liquor of whatever sort, and I just have it titled here because he's carried away. Just Excelsior. Fantastic.
Well, he gets quoted with using Excelsior in this one and True Believer in Captain Marvel, so he gets his catchphrases out there.
Yeah.
We didn't get enough said.
Oh.
But maybe we will.
Yeah, there's still time.
I hope for his last one, and if it's in
I imagine Spider-Man, yeah.
and Far From Home, that we get enough said to end it. That would just be perfect. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But if you have that cameo stored away you need to have used that for that movie. Just saying.
So my number one was also the Captain Marvel one, for all reasons said before. My number two was the Age of Ultron, because that's amazing. And then I have a different one for my third one, which was from Amazing Spider-Man, which is such a stupid one, but he's wearing the headphones and he's just unaware of everything that's going on behind him. And it's the table part, the table that comes flying at him, and then it stops and gets pulled back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna let that slide.
Brian's
but
gonna yell at you.
Yeah, it's not MCU.
You're not MC.
I know. That's why I'm making lists about them.
Well, whatever. It's on my list.
I wrote it down. Take it.
Deal with it.
Man in it.
That's a Sony movie, though.
It's not our fault. There's too many deals to.
I know. See, it's
keep
confusing
track
for
of.
everybody.
It's very confusing.
There's so to tag on to Mike's comment, after the release of Captain Marvel, Kevin Smith did not just a reaction like tweet, but he actually did a 7-minute video that he recorded.
I watched this.
Explaining that Kevin Feige had actually called him after Stan passed and said, obviously, this is after they held a tribute for him at Grauman's, formerly Grauman's, whatever. That had all happened. So it's a couple weeks after Stan passed. Kevin Feige called Kevin to say, I want to give you a heads up about what his cameo is in Captain Marvel. So they hadn't even told him ahead of time that this was going to be it.
In that, I really wish they had just let Kevin Smith see it on film.
Yeah,
completely unaware.
I think right, and
I think that was the plan.
That was probably the plan.
Stan passed, and they needed.
Yes, yes, you guys have heard it then. So they were saying that the day that they filmed the cameo, Stan wasn't having a good day, wasn't feeling well. So his voice recording didn't come through very well. So they actually came back to him and said, Kevin Feige came back to Kevin Smith to say, do you happen to know if there are still outtake tracks from Mallrats for when he's actually saying these lines in the movie, so that we can try to overdub them? Because if you actually, the moments where Stan's quote talking in Captain Marvel, his face is covered by the script, and when his face is revealed when he puts it down,
Just smiles.
he's just smiling, so he's not speaking. So I think that's what they ended up doing, was they ended up punching up some of the old. So obviously Mallrats is not owned by Kevin Smith, it is owned by Universal, who made the movie. So I think he kind of redirected them. He redirected Feige back to there. But along those lines, I wonder, is there something maybe from any other appearances he's done, any other recordings that anyone might have access to, that even though it might not be for Far From Home, maybe that's not what they ended up shooting with him, but maybe they're able to doctor it up a bit and spice
At the
together.
end of the Mallrats cameo that he does, he says, "Enough said."
Does he?
Yes.
That, okay.
When he finishes talking to Jason Lee, he just kind of throws his hands up. Enough said.
Does he? Okay, perfect. So I mean that
It's there.
it's so,
and if they did it that way, they would have this already.
right, and precedent is there for them to go back to some of these audio sources to do something like that. So maybe that's still on the table.
Movie magic.
Yeah, showing how the sausage is made.
All right, so I guess it's my list. My three, the two that we already talked about, he's cutting Thor's hair in Ragnarok. Just the fact that Thor makes such a big deal about him cutting his hair, that
Threatens the
sells
old
it
guy.
for me. Yeah.
I mean, if he was coming at you with that tool, how would you feel?
Oh, yeah.
That's what she said. But nonetheless, that it is kind of a ridiculous thing that he
I had a
pulls
delayed
out to cut Thor's hair
Yeah.
with, and it seems completely ridiculous and unnecessary.
Yeah.
I would scream if he was gonna do that. That looked,
It's a little overkill.
yeah.
Yeah. Tony Stank, number 2 for me. The one that, again, at the time that I made this list, because I'm sure it would change any other time I do this, my number 1 for me was his cameo in Thor when he ties the truck to the hammer and tries to pick it up and rips the whole back of the truck off.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, did it work?
That was such a great cameo for me. I love that one. So that's my 3. All right, next category. So we're going top 3 supporting characters. Josh, you are back on the board.
Sure. So 2 of my 3 come from the Guardians world.
Mm-hmm.
When I thought about supporting characters, for me, there's not a ton that aren't like first string that like give you like anything left, like meaty to take from.
Okay.
So, the first, I guess if I have to go by ranking, I'm gonna say my absolute first, unless someone else is considering him like first string. I'm going with Yondu.
Okay. I could maybe see him supporting in the first one, maybe.
Yeah,
not the second one.
First movie, I'd say supporting. Second movie, he's definitely main cast.
But within those two movies, yeah, that's why I was kind of trying to think about this for a while. But in the overall fabric of then all the other movies, he doesn't, like, nobody even knows who Yondu is, like, outside of those like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of thought like he still counts as supporting for me because it's just like to that one small segment of the story, but to the other 19 movies or whatever, he's not really connected there. But I could substitute one out at the end if
I'll allow
it.
If I could, yeah, we can allow it. It's not going to change my list, so I'll.
My second, still from that world, is actually Kraglin, Sean Gunn's character.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There's from the moment I saw Guardians 2 for the first time, I was extremely taken with Yondu, Rocket, and Kraglin. Mm-hmm. Their character arcs in that movie and their moments and their portrayals really got me. I don't know why. It's not like I identify with them per se, but there's just something about them that really had a lasting impression on me and still do. The moment in the two moments in Guardians 2 for Sean Gunn, when he first sees the rest of the Ravagers show up for the funeral. His eyes light up, and just before he screams out the window, yeah, and does this Ravager pound, chest pound, and then when Quill gives him Yondu's arrow, and he just cracks. He's thanks, Captain. That like Sean Gunn is not. No one knows who Sean Gunn is.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Nobody has any idea who the frick. That moment was one of the best moments of acting I saw like all that year. Something about that just hit so real for me. I don't know. Then my last, again, this might be one I get vetoed on or not, but I'm going with Falcon.
I'm surprised you didn't put your most obvious choice in this list.
We'll get to that. It's on my list.
Okay.
Well, again, because I
Falcon I'll call a side-ish. He's ancillary, or like he's
like, to me, like him and like someone like him and War Machine. Like to me, it's like they're not always Team A. They're not on the front line. They're more like supportive to the main team.
We're not getting their story, and that's why I'm okay with you saying that. That's why I was like kind of on Yondu, because we do get a lot of his story.
Yeah,
but Falcon, we're not getting. This isn't about him at all.
Right.
He's there, but it's not about him. So I'm okay with that.
There.
We'll give it to you.
All right. All right. Well.
So Falcon.
I'll say to Falcon. To make amends, I'll throw out just 2 more to. Coulson and Korg.
Okay.
Were in the back of my head the runners up, but like,
he's taken my whole list already.
I completely forgot about Coulson for some reason. I don't know why I drew a blank on him when I was making my list, but now I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? Okay, no, this is a side note for myself. Keep going.
No, and this is like not coming from like I still haven't ever started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet, so it's not even coming from that part of the universe.
And I do watch that show religiously, and I don't know why I didn't.
But even though Coulson's not in any of these past the first, I mean, if you figure what the first 5 movies, he has maybe 15 minutes of combined screen time.
Yeah,
he has a little bit more overall in Avengers, and he's not in this universe past the 6th movie.
Yeah,
but
he still has, if you try to escape, I will tase you, leave you drooling on the floor while I watch Super Nanny.
So, yeah, and Korg is self-explanatory, so I will divest my time.
No impression? No, I figured for sure you were going to come out with a Korg impression.
He might appear later.
We do have quotes coming.
We have other categories to get through.
I apologize. I jumped.
Why are you encouraging this? I hear it. I hear it all the time. He just does. He'll just say random things to me in our daily lives in Korg's voice. Also in Russian. He does a Russian accent for no reason whatsoever.
It's easy to slip into our voices.
Oh, you're doing a Dave DeSmulchin for
partially. Yeah. Maybe pull the Smulchin out. Yeah.
There's a supporting character for you.
In Mother Russia, list makes you.
Yeah. Yes.
See, because I think I kind of looked at it as, and maybe this was too technical about the supporting. I look at it as like the way the Academy Awards do, like best actor, best actress, supporting. So even if somebody is a main part of the story, but they're not the focus, I looked at them as more like supporting.
Well, that seems like that's what Josh was doing too. So we're on the same.
I didn't know where to put Fury.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
We're not getting his story, and that's why I'm okay with Fury as a side character. Like, if you were to say like Gamora, I would just instantly shut that down because so much of this is her story that we're getting. But Fury, this isn't about Fury. None of this whole story arc that we're getting in these movies is about him. It's things that he's been there for. But
because going through your guys' list, I think I want to amend mine because I think I picked people that were way down on the supporting list. Then okay, so at least someone else is on the side.
I did, but I'm not amending. I'm sticking with the ones I chose.
Yeah, because that'll be a more robust discussion.
Yeah. I'm just like Fury and Coulson are like obvious choices now that I'm looking back. Like, why the fuck didn't I pick those people?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But those be interesting once we get around, because then I'm curious to see like how deep down the bench you went.
Maybe not as deep as we think, but.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So I had Fury, I had Coulson. I also had Okoye.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I adore her. And it was hard because I just blanked out on the other Nakia. Yes, thank you. Because I also really enjoy Nakia too. And so I was going back and forth because I was like, who do I like? But there's something about her whole during near the tail end of Black Panther, when the battle, when she was like for Wakanda, of course, she like holds the knife out.
Yeah,
I love that
to her
thing.
bow.
And then her whole part in Infinity War as well, when she's fighting. I love her. So those are my three: Fury, Coulson, and
nice,
good picks.
Like I said, Josh, when he extended his list by 2, covered the rest of my list.
Okay. Well,
I had the third for Coulson, second was Korg, and first was Kraglin. And we talked about Kraglin.
Kraglin love.
Captain's got to teach stuff. I was sold then on Kraglin. Guardians 2 went even further with it.
Oh, yeah, in the first one, he's like, Captain's got to teach.
Yeah, like his whole repeat shit that Yondu said thing in that movie was...
Do you do this too? That every time I see that scene, I think of American Pie?
Yeah.
With the
culmination. Yeah, the stupid assistant coach. Yeah. Korg, you can't say enough about how much Korg made Ragnarok better.
Yeah.
It's not the same movie without him, and congratulations to Taika Waititi for directing that movie and appearing as the most entertaining character in it. Maybe. It's that movie's just so great, it's hard to say he is, but definitely has to be there. And Coulson, we've just had so much fun with Coulson through the years.
Yeah.
Even if you don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it doesn't matter. Just what he did in the rest of the movies is great.
Because he definitely shifts to main character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so he's not the supporting. And you get a lot more of him in that show.
Well, right. But you don't... even on the show, it's not really about him.
He is like the lead of that show. One of many. But
I always took Daisy as the lead.
She gets there, but you go to the show for Coulson. That's your segue.
He's the draw.
Yeah,
but I don't feel. I feel like it's about her and it's not about him. Like he's there, but
all right. I'll give you that. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I wound up, and I'll just pass it on.
Okay. I also had a way that she was my number one. I was in between her and M'Baku because I love Coulson.
Yeah.
He was just cool. He just was intimidating. And then these are my. I also went Wong from Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call.
Wouldn't say no to a tuna melt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then along the same lines as Wong, I went with Ned from Homecoming. The man in the chair. He's so perfect.
Oh,
Ned's
yeah.
awesome.
What are you doing? Looking at porn?
Now, I had a hard time thinking of quotes, and now every time we're talking about a character,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
that's
of
true.
quotes they've made, and I'm like,
Quotes
I gotta
was
add that
hard.
to my list.
Yeah.
Whenever he's in Peter's room, when he crawls into Spider-Man, just the look, and he's just like, oh! I'm like, I
I shed a tear every time that Death Star breaks apart.
How much time that takes to put together?
Like the person, like the production person that was hired on that movie. Like,
oh my god!
Please spend 9 hours making this.
Can you imagine if they didn't get it in one
I was
take?
gonna say, you better hope it gets done in one take, or else we got to build it back up and do it again.
This is where we need to insert a clip of Paula talking about how they have to build all of their Lego for the store, and then they take. She's never told me, but they do take them out every once in a while, and I'm assuming that they don't hand it to a child because if they drop it. But she said, it takes. They had to build all of them.
I believe that. Yeah.
I feel like her heart, like she just.
That was your 3, right? Okay. For me, like I said, I'm thinking back. Like Fury and Coulson would have been good additions to mine. What I wrote down, I had Korg. Obviously, I have to put Korg in there. Shuri is another one from Black Panther who I adore, and just because he had a smaller role in Age of Ultron, he got a bigger role in Black Panther, and looked like he was having a fucking ball. Is Claw.
Yeah.
I think Andy Serkis just fucking played it phenomenally in Black Panther.
Yeah.
So he stuck out to me. All right, so that's our supporting. We'll go to... I have costumes next on my list if we want to do costumes.
Sounds good.
So, Josh, you're up again.
All right. These ones are in no particular order. I couldn't really rank them. This was a harder category for me. Again, this was one that was just like, there's so much to try to think about that I just got overwhelmed and my brain turned off. But the ones that I picked are just more like right in front of you, very, I don't say more flashy, but they kind of are. They're not really subtle. So my 3 in no particular order are Yondu, mostly from Guardians 2, because I freaking love that red mohawk.
Yeah, when he finally got the fin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This year for Halloween, I've been wanting to do it since 2017. This year for Halloween, I think I am.
Oh, you going to paint yourself blue?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to dye. Actually, dye. I'm gonna dye part. What was that?
From Arrested Development, blue myself.
Oh, yeah. Just goes blue. Yeah. I'm going to try to like dye like part of the middle of my hair red so I can gel it up for the mohawk.
Oh, man.
And then dye the other part blue because since his head's shaved,
yeah,
I like tie that part back in a
You wouldn't shave your head for this costume?
Shit, no. I'm not that committed.
Bald cap and a real fin.
It'd give me an excuse to dye my
dedicate.
hair.
He just wants to dye his hair.
Yeah, do some like red stripe in the middle and then blue underneath, and then I can do like the blue body paint and whatnot. So like that look, especially like the punk rockness of that fin, I loved it. My second is Vision.
Okay. Yeah.
Fair enough.
He is one of the few, like everyone, especially the last many years, people always say like, "Oh, it's like a comic book. Just come to the screen." There's something about him that just looks like a drawing rendered. Regardless of whether it's a comic book or not, he looks like an illustration in life, and especially the way that they were able to so smoothly create the prosthetics for his face. There's not a wrinkle in it. It doesn't look awkward. It looks like that is exactly how his face is molded, and the way they deal with his head as well. Like Nebula almost made my list for this as well because of that same sort of feature, like manipulating their face and their head with both practical on the skin makeup and prosthetics, just to make such a clear there's not like a vulnerability in that sculpture. It's just so pristine. I really like the edges to it.
For me, with Vision, the thing that's always thrown me off is just it's not the costume itself. The costume looks amazing. It's that they went 99.9% comic book look for Vision, and then they left him with normal eyes.
Okay.
Because like the way his eyes look very human compared to what they look like in the comics is what always throws me off on Vision.
What's the main difference?
Their eyes. Like in the comic, he has very much like, if I'm recalling correctly, it's just white. Like there's not like
Batman mask almost. Like
just
like
it's
just
there. Like it's just there. There's not like eyes, you know. And I think that's like the biggest difference in the way he looks in the comics, obviously, to how they put him on screen.
Yeah.
And I get the decision because it would be weird as shit.
Hard to act it too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even expressions dead eye.
But
That too.
he's supposed to be an android.
But it also helps.
He's so much more.
I think it
He
helps.
is.
I think it helps the other actors sell their reactions to him. They are better able to react to him, so therefore their performance is more realistic.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the character or anything like that. It's just
maybe that was
it's
part
like
of the
that.
choice.
Yeah, part of that costume choice that was different. That I still wonder what it would look like had they gone the full route, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not.
There's sort of a parallel that I know from actually in Harry Potter. When they were finally going to have like the spoilers, rebirth of Voldemort. He's always described as having these like red slitted eyes, and they barely describe him as even still having like eyeballs per se that are just red colored. But once they were rendering it on live screen, they decided to just give him back like regular human eyes.
Yeah,
because they said it would pull you out of it a bit more. Like in your mind on the page, it works because everyone is going to envision their own picture in their mind about that, and whatever they picture, it works for them. But on the screen, it would be just a bit too much to have. It'd be a little bit of overkill.
Yeah,
I think to have like that character with these like blinding red eyes that you're supposed to.
It would take away immersion.
It would, and the humanizing factor of this is still a dude, and he's just this evil. He's choosing to be this. In a similar fashion, I think that's perhaps why they decided to do something like this. We could go this route with Vision, especially with his face, but there's a better effect visually on screen
It humanizes.
to do what they did for the viewer. But actually, now that you've mentioned that, maybe that's why I'm now realizing that once Thanos rips the Soul Stone out of his head, and his eyes are gone, I didn't really pick up on that as much until right now because his color palette just goes to like that deep purple gray all over. He's completely devoid of color, and the eyes are gone.
Yep.
It's just flat. That exactly that. It's like it's not the white, but it's just that like flat panel. So maybe that's why it stuck out so much. My last one in the costume category is the Grandmaster.
Yeah.
And I think part of this was, like you said, with Andy Serkis having so much fun as Claw.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum, holy shit. Goldblum's the hell out of this part. So I said his costume's not all that intricate if you think about it. It's the costume and the makeup and the hair and the nails and the mannerisms and whatnot. And it's definitely him that sells it.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
But like I said, these aren't subtle choices, and I know that. But there's something about what they did with him that I think works really well. Because I don't know how he looks in the comics or what his basis is, but if like as a quote like Celestial is like the last of his kind, and now he's a Celestial and all that. I think they could have done a lot of different things that could have come off very grandiose, but would have been more bland.
His comic look is a little bit more. Trying to think of a good way to put it, but like Kree, like he actually has like a bluish, grayish colored skin.
Okay,
but other than that, the actual costume part is spot on. I don't know if it's a robe so much, because it seems like he's wearing a robe, or a dress, or more than it doesn't seem like it's pants there. You know what I mean? So it's.
When I heard about a character, because I didn't know anything about it, when I heard about a character called the Grandmaster, and I kind of started to learn about the premise, like, oh, this is kind of going to be Planet Hulk-ish, Contest of Champions-ish, and all that sort of thing. I think they could have gone with someone trying to dress much more regally, more high priest, something like that. And so I think to see that actor in that look was a good choice.
Yeah, so, I agree.
There's my 3. Sara.
Okay. I mean, I love Loki so much. Did you not think that was coming?
Loki,
3 different Loki costumes.
No, but no, I think that's part of what I like is they evolved his look. Like I mean, Loki in Avengers is my favorite of his, because his look, obviously Ragnarok changes, but even from Thor to Avengers, Thor 2, it's more like Avengers, but there's a difference in his hair from Thor to Avengers. And I kind of like is one of my favorite things they did in Avengers is where he is in Germany and he goes, and so he's supposed to be at the opera and he's in the suit, but he has the scarf, and just like the way they've portrayed him, it's still the silhouette and the structure of it harkens back to his costume for the rest of the movie. And then I like the horned helmet, but I like that they didn't. I think if they would have kept him in that, it would have taken away from scenes because it's so grandiose, at least the way that they, and the small things that I've seen from the comics is it's very pronounced.
Yeah. Make a move, reindeer games.
Yeah. But that's the thing is I think that would have made that quote made more of an impact, like just when it's in there fleetingly, like he's not constantly wearing the horns the whole time.
But it makes you think about it.
Right.
You hear it, you're like, it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which then you get the payoff in Ragnarok in the play that they're all watching, and Matt Damon is hamming it up on, make a statue with me with my helmet with the big horns.
Yeah. So there's just something that I like about him. Anything about that whole look too. It's very sleek and but I love that scarf. I just want it's sexy. I mean, it's Tom Hiddleston. He could wear a bag and be sexy, but I also just want.
She didn't say where the bag would be.
That's up to you. I just want that scarf too. I really need to find that scarf. I really love Black Widow's costume. Her this like the black catsuit. I don't know. Ever since I saw I remember it kind of being a bad movie, but they remade the 1960s Avengers movie with I think it was Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke in the
Ray Fiennes.
Or Ray Fiennes, that was it.
Yeah.
In the 90s was when they made that.
Yeah.
Late 90s,
Sounds about right. Yeah.
But it's a similar
Charlie's Angels phase, I think.
Yeah.
But she has like that similar look too, and I know they use that in a lot of looks for like the spy. It's very also Catwoman-ish, just that kind of look. But I just love that her with her hair too. I mean, I cut my hair that way.
When I met Sara, that is how her hair.
That is why I had shorter hair.
That is why she started.
Which one are we talking?
Avengers.
First
Avengers.
Okay.
When she cuts her hair, I specifically took that in to my stylist and was like, "This is what I want." I don't have the curly hair that she has, so I have to work a little harder at it. But I don't know. There's something about her whole look that I love. And my third was the Dora Milaje from Black Panther. I just love those costumes and the color. And I mean, Black Panther, I think overall just had amazing costumes start to finish. Yeah. I don't think they had a weak link at all in their costume design. And I just loved that cohesion of the women and how each one of them, if I remember, each one there's like some slight differences in them, but there's a uniformity of it that I just love.
I think they were meant like the differences that you see. I think was like military rank.
Yeah,
differences perhaps, but maybe just subtle things. Yeah, they put in for that reason.
But those are my three.
Good list. Mike.
Okay, for me, coming in third place is the Yellow Jacket suit. Which, in spite of the character and maybe Corey Stoll trying but not really succeeding as much as I'd like, that suit was fucking awesome. Just everything about it I thought looked so much better than Yellow Jacket ever has in the comics. And if I'm not mistaken, that look has kind of inspired how they make Yellow Jacket look now in the comics.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
It's just... You see that suit and you get like, oh, this is going to be a cool ass scene, and then Corey Stoll talks and kind of spoils it for me.
I mean, it was an Ant-Man. So
I love the movie Ant-Man.
Take that into consideration.
No,
take it down a notch, Josh. Take it down a notch.
I love Ant-Man. I just don't necessarily like Corey Stoll as Yellow Jacket, but
fair enough.
The Yellow Jacket itself, the suit, just fucking cool. Number 2 is Red Skull. The makeup, everything. The fact that you're still able to see Hugo Weaving in Red Skull, but it looks exactly like Red Skull from the comic books is unfucking believable. What they were able to do there. And even the parts where they just have like Hugo Weaving actually appearing as himself as Schmidt, and then you see like the little bits peeking out because he's wearing a skin face. That's fucking awesome. Love every bit of that.
Went a bit Leatherface there.
Yeah.
It's like strange.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, like it's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
The costume itself, you know, I mean, that's fairly easy. That's just Nazi uniforms just with Hydra symbols on them. That doesn't impress me. It's just the head work there.
Yeah, that was another one that, like, we mentioned, like, watching.
Throwing yourself under the bus on this one.
Yo, yeah, definitely.
We mentioned, like, watching the show Face Off for so many seasons. That same thing where you learn about just the process of making designs and then clay molds and transferring that to like a latex overlay and
Latex or polyfoam.
yeah,
or
like learning all that, and then and you're getting like really bare bones introduction to these emerging professionals, but mostly like industry amateurs. To then watch like the end product when you see some of these things on film. That was another one where, like, talking about sculpture again, like with Vision, Red Skull is just like perfect. The coloration, the lighting, the sheen, the shape.
To throw it perfect. Even more out to those people, you can't tell the difference between Ross Marquand and Hugo Weaving.
I know.
In those two movies, if you just look, they look exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, definite props to them for that. Making my number one spot is what I feel like is an awesome costume, and also something that I feel like they put more work into than any of the others, and that's going to Hela. And the reason
I had a hard
for
time
this is that
with
her
that, yeah.
costume evolves throughout the movie to fit what she's doing in every scene. Her entire look, it's very subtle that a lot of people don't necessarily notice it unless they're looking for it. But the way her makeup is, the way her hair is, the way her headdress fits, the way her costume is, all kind of fit her current attitude and mood and everything she's doing in the movie. And it's, like I said, if you watch it again and look for that, you can notice what they do there. Because I had no clue that it was happening until I knew to look for it. The costume itself, just, you know, the base image that we probably all have in our mind of the Hela costume is amazing in and of itself. The fact that they made it so that Cate Blanchett can go from her hair down looking beautiful to instantly popping that thing on her head and looking crazy scary. Awesome. Yeah, they put so much work into it, and it just worked. It just, you know, start to finish in that movie, really did well.
Nice. Good picks. Leslie?
Okay, so my number 3 was Drax. I love
Good pick.
It's so, like, it looks so natural that you think that Batista...
That's how he looks. And when I see him now in other parts, even like concurrently with this, like when he pops up in the beginning of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And what else? He was in Spectre.
Yeah.
Like you see him like in things that you almost do, yeah. Like, even when he does press like for these movies anymore, he's like, on a late night show with some other cast. You're like, who's that guy?
I know. It's so
What part does he play?
Pants, but it's all
Yeah.
the body paint.
Yeah. And it might be, for me, is it the same for you? Like when you now see him, most of the time he has, a lot of time now, like in real life, he'll rock facial hair. So he has like a thin layer of hair that he still keeps when he's not doing this part at least, and some facial hair. So that look like he just disappears under that makeup.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And he looks like an alien without looking unnatural.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Not too alien. Then Doctor Strange, because I love Doctor Strange, and he just looks so cool. And his cape is also, like a supporting character.
Blanket of death.
The magic carpet.
Yeah. Are they missing an opportunity to throw out like a whole new world joke in these movies?
They can now.
Yeah.
Something
I was
shining
gonna say,
or shimmering.
We still haven't seen Infinity War yet.
Or Endgame.
Endgame.
This is true.
Yeah. And I loved Captain Marvel. I loved it. I loved the mohawk. I loved the way just her suit was functional. And I like the colors of it. And
She can change the colors whenever she wants.
Did anyone else kind of want her to keep that whole neon look?
I kind of love the neon.
Fucking cool.
The 80s arcade,
Tronish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, stop, you're good.
Yeah.
Somehow that's better. But
Not very combat effective because you stand out like a sore thumb, but it looks fucking cool.
if you're invulnerable, which it seems
That's
like she is, it
fair
doesn't
point.
really matter if they know where
Let's
to
get this
shoot.
over with sooner. Here I am.
It could be cosmic bowling.
That is the perfect.
That is a
outfit.
post-credit
Cosmic
scene
bowling
right
camo.
She
there.
could go cosmically bowling. Not
Oh,
So just like we wrote the
Three
outline
Captain
idea.
Americas and the Beetle.
Yeah, this needs to
Take
be
her
this
cosmic
needs to be a one
bowling.
shot idea for Captain Marvel DVD.
Maybe it can be like, since. Never mind. I'm not going to say anything because
Goose could be there.
No, I'm just going to stop myself
I'm
entirely.
afraid that anything you say now is going to come out badly.
No, you're on an embargo, so I'm not saying anything.
Oh yeah,
Trailery points, maybe.
yeah.
Oh,
maybe.
Yes,
Gotcha.
there's a trailery
Yeah.
point where there could be something that happens with cosmic bowling that would be really cool that I can't mention
Yeah.
because
Okay.
Josh is on an embargo. You guys know what I mean.
I don't.
I don't either. I've not.
That's good because it
You
almost
watched it?
I haven't watched the
sounds-
newest.
It
No.
almost sounds like if you're saying I can't say something about potential cosmic bowling because it might give something away. Sounds like it's giving something away. So if they're not getting it, then
They didn't watch
Yeah.
it either.
Spoiler alert: She
the-
does go bowling in space.
I'm the
fine
only
with that. That'd be
person
great.
Then they beat
who's
us to the
seen
punch.
this
We
trailer,
can't-
and hopefully I remind myself to bring this up again later. Yeah, there's
So there was a moment after we saw Captain Marvel that I was reading through. I didn't catch this, and it might have been intentional. That as she is with Monica and she's going through her costume color choices, and it's like I think it's the first one she picks, first or second, and it's basically like the red and gold that looks really similar to Shazam.
Okay, yeah.
And at least one thing I was reading at the time it mentioned it, like, was that an intentional callback or reference to the fact that Shazam was formerly known as Captain Marvel until they were forced to change the name, and that's basically how his outfit looks.
Yeah,
or
I
not.
thought I read something about like what every color scheme that you see, what it's a reference to.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember
Yeah.
that specifically being one. I'm not saying it couldn't be,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the list that I saw was different stuff. Of course, I don't remember what they were referencing.
Right,
but
right.
the green and white one that she flips to does go back to the original Captain Marvel.
Maybe that was one of them.
That almost looks like honestly, I thought Slytherin when I saw that.
And the golden.
Yeah, Gryffindor. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was this whole time. You know,
She was big sorted.
So the first, the Kree one she wears is what, green and blue? Isn't that more Hufflepuffy?
No.
you might be able to make an art.
Harry Potter reference failed.
Yeah.
I would say Hufflepuff would have been black and gold.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
it's almost like a Slytherin Ravenclaw mix.
Yeah.
Ravenclaw, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Ravenclaw is
Ravenclaw's
blue and
like a
silver.
blue
Yeah.
and silver.
Yeah.
But although I don't know what the Ilvermorny house.
True.
If the houses have colors. in
we
the
haven't.
American
I
school.
don't think that's been revealed.
I don't think it has.
I don't think they're doing that.
I think we should write that.
Maybe, but I don't think that they're throwing that in as a reference
should
in a,
write that
in a
and sell it to
Disney-made movie on a Warner Brothers owned
That's our
property.
nest egg. we got the brain trust.
So many
going.
good ideas in this episode.
So I'm sorry. Let's see. We kept cutting you off about your captain thoughts.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, 3 for me. I'm a Spider-Man geek, so the Homecoming Spider-Man suit to me was fucking great. It's got that classic look to it, but still new. The movable eyes was a great touch. I love that expressionism in there. Something about Star-Lord's costume too. I just fucking love it, and the helmet for me, I think, is what sells it. I really like the trench coat and his whole look, but that helmet with everything just seals the deal for me, and I think it's great looking. And I almost wanted to do like 3 different Cap costumes, but his progression for his costume, what you see in First Avenger just harkens to that era. The first Avengers movie is very classic comic book Captain America costume. And then it progresses slightly through Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Infinity War. And I'm picking the one from Infinity War basically because it's the continuation from Civil War, but there's no star. It's ripped up. It's just dirty because he's been in the trenches on his own, doing his own thing. It's just a unique look for him that I like.
Have you seen any of the press for the one in Endgame?
I've seen screenshots of some sort of new team costume for everyone.
I'm talking about caps.
Oh,
There's a
then no.
cap uniform.
Then no.
It looks as though we're getting the scaled uniform.
Oh, all right. That'd be cool.
Like,
because there's hints of
Cap
that
uniform.
That's another reason I like his Infinity War 1 is underneath the costume you see the scales of his comic book. I don't know, like armored suit, or if you want to call it some sort of armor. But there's
like the vibranium
like flakes
scales
underneath one of the patches of holes that's in his costume from being beat up.
Oh, okay.
So that's another callback to his comic book looking costume.
It looks as though we're getting the full thing.
I hope he just rips it off like tearaway pants. And he's like, "Look, motherfuckers, I had this on the whole time." It'd be great.
In the comics, that scaling is
they're
just like
they're finally implementing their one F-bomb allowed in a
And it comes from Cap.
movie. Yeah,
And it comes from Cap.
And somebody has to go, language.
Yes, yes. It all comes back around. It's a callback the whole time.
So you want him to have his boy band or / Magic Mike moment with tearaway pants.
Yes. That would be like the top of my moments list whenever we do this ranking again. He just shows up to the battle and he's like, "Let's go," and then just rips it apart. Scaly uniform. Let's go, motherfuckers. And then, yeah, I got this.
So I would say the overall costume in Infinity War didn't strike me as much as some of his other iterations, but once he gets like the new like arm shields from Wakanda, and I think I said this in our either our year-end review or our review of that movie specifically, the shot on the Wakandan plains when him and T'Challa are leading the charge to fight those beasts, and they are 70 yards ahead of everybody because they can run like lightning, and they are just running with such intensity, like, come here, I am going to tear your shit up. I cannot wait to kill all of you.
I feel like every screening I went to for that movie, it got one of the biggest rounds of applause
it's
every time.
It's barely like a second that it's happening that they give that
it's
this
they
one
let
perspective. It's
the super soldiers have a foot race into battle, not even just a foot race into battle.
Yeah,
and they're not.
They
shying.
don't announce
they're
a winner. They just have them.
They're not waiting for backup. They're not. They're just going. I don't care that it's 2 or even 1 against 1,000.
Oh yeah,
just we're coming to kill every last one of you dead.
And not to mention, like, sadly enough, none of us mentioned Black Panther is like our favorite costume, and it makes me sad because it's not so much that the costume looks cool; it's what the costume does that's cool.
It's and that bishop type power to it.
Yeah, and that scene is like the perfect example of it. Is when they get out ahead and you start seeing Black Panther just. Everything explodes around him as soon as
you pick him out in those big wide battlefield shots, is that's where the explosion comes from the reverb of his shoot.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably why it doesn't make anybody's list here, is because it doesn't necessarily look that cool. It just does cool shit.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say though is the scaling we're talking about. It almost looks like a plate mail, like little bitty plates of scaling, and that's how they put the vibranium into his costume in the one.
No, is
example.
Is that a result? Is that look a result of how illustration was done in the past, or there was actually like an explanation as to why it looked that way so long ago?
I mean, that was how he was drawn. I don't know if there was an in-comic explanation to why it looks
it
scaly.
Just looked that way, and then
in the same way, like if you look at comics even from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, where to get the coloration on how it needed to be printed with the ink that they had. They would do like those minute red dots.
Right.
He didn't have it then.
I didn't know if that was like a similar reason. Like there was a reason they had to draw it that way because of how things got printed or anything. Or
when he first showed up in the 40s, the costume wasn't scaled.
Okay.
I believe I don't know if it was in the first Avengers. Like when he shows up in Avengers #4, I don't know if he has a scaled.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I'd have to look
detailed.
Back. Mm-hmm. But it's most famous for like the Civil War storyline, where they get, these new highly detailed, art for these comic books, and it's very pronounced that it's all like very much armored scaling on the uniform, and it was kind of a look that any Cap fan has always been waiting to see the uniform take. So knowing that it's probably coming for Endgame is awesome.
That's cool.
All right, so that wraps up costumes. We'll go to top 3 Avengers / main cast. So Josh, you're up.
Up to me. Okay. Again, I don't know if I necessarily have an order for these per se. I will start with Rocket. Actually, like I said earlier, the arc of some of the characters, especially in the second Guardians movie, and then especially with Rocket through Infinity War, it was a really interesting choice to have him alone. And I guess you could say yes, Groot, but Groot's not really there in most scenes.
Yeah.
Really, especially as like he goes back to this teenage phase. To have him pretty much solely break off from the group and go with Thor, I thought was an interesting choice. I would not have guessed that would have happened ahead of time.
Yeah.
And especially watching them learn about each other, and then they end up at Vormir, the Star.
I'm waiting. I'm
I'm not going to get there.
Nidavellir.
Thank you. That whole piece with them too. There's something about that character that, even though there's still some things that seem irredeemable about him and kind of shitty, like in the way like when he says Thor says, I have nothing else to lose, and even Rocket's like, no, I do. Like I could stand to lose a lot. And can we still go to that place where they make the most terrible weapons in the universe? I'd like to have those.
Yeah.
There's still things about him that you're like, no, he's not perfect in any way at all. In fact, maybe I shouldn't like him. Maybe I'm not supposed to. But there's something about him that's just very attractive. And it was funny. We just watched the first Guardians again prior to Captain Marvel, and Bradley Cooper's voice performance changed dramatically between Guardians 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. His voice in Guardians 2 and Infinity War is much more affected, as opposed to Guardians 1. I didn't really remember that he's almost talking with more of his natural voice and a bit more gravelly, but not as though Bradley Cooper is doing a character per se. He's invented a voice character to do.
Yeah.
But through all of that, he's definitely made an impression on me. My number 2, or second at least, is Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner.
Okay.
And I think a lot of my choices, I'm realizing as I was doing this, are definitely affected by the actors who have brought this forward. It's not just the characters that I tend to like in general. I am still a hard rider for Edward Norton's Bruce Banner. I still champion Incredible Hulk in the MCU. I think it's very underrated and forgotten, but I think it's very, very good. But in the incarnations that we've seen of Bruce Banner, maybe it was the company that he found himself in, and that helped play off. Who knows? But from the moment that Ruffalo comes on screen, not even speaking English, speaking a different language in India in the first Avengers, there's something about him, and especially that first scene with him and Natasha in the cabin in that house, he just hit for me.
Yeah.
So that portrayal is definitely, and I think I like Bruce more than the Hulk per se. Like I like how they're able to render the Hulk and bring that to you, but I actually like watching Ruffalo. I like watching Ruffalo do Banner.
I think until Ragnarok, you didn't really get a personality for the Hulk.
Yeah.
You got little interactions here and there with Thor, but he wasn't really speaking.
Once he's in Hulk mode, yes, you're right.
Right. But that's what we're talking about. It's the difference between Bruce and the Hulk, and
right.
You get it in Ragnarok, and I feel like I love that version of the Hulk.
Sure.
It
helps.
But Bruce himself is the character.
Right.
Like, that's the character that you care about. That's, the Hulk is just kind of in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really dig Ruffalo in every moment that he's in.
It always makes you wonder, too, like, what would the what-if scenario of if Edward Norton stuck around as the Hulk, what would the interactions with the characters would have been like? Should he make it to Avengers and all that stuff?
Yeah, like that. Think of that first bridge scene on the helicarrier in the first Avengers, where it's Fury, Tony, Thor, and Natasha's sitting there, and him.
Cap should be there too, right?
And Cap, yeah. Around the
you
table.
You don't get to see my party trick after all.
Yeah, like that scene, and where him and Tony are talking about, how do you stabilize the reaction to figure out where to put the Tesseract for this stuff, and they're going back and forth on geek stuff. I don't know. I don't know how that would have been, because we can only go by what we've seen. But all I do know is what I've seen from Ruffalo.
Right.
I don't want anything else.
Yeah.
And then my last is Chris Evans' Captain America. there's I came into all this, and I still do, not especially on the Marvel side, not being a comic reader. Going even back to like anything that I've picked up in the last few years, mostly it's been like DC graphic novels. It's been like longer one-shot Batman stories, like Long Halloween or things like that. There's not really a lot of like Marvel stuff that I'm picking up. Like, oh, here's a trade paperback of like the Secret Wars, or Secret Invasion, like any of that.
Yeah. Well, I know what you're getting for Christmas.
So it's maybe I'll forget about it by then. It'll be a surprise. So like I'm not coming into this thinking like, oh yeah, that's the Captain America I've been waiting for because I've had this 20-year impression of what this character should be. None of that, but even having Chris Evans goes away for me.
Yeah.
And there's many movies that I've seen him in concurrently while he's been in the MCU, and several that I'd seen him in prior to this. His face is in front of you the whole time. He's not Drax in makeup. He's not anyone behind a mask. Except like very little where part of his face is. But it is freaking Chris Evans right there.
And considering the other stuff he's been in, his wealth of other acting jobs, that you've seen him in plenty of stuff prior to this, and it's hard to shake that. You would think, coming into watching him portray such a big character. But you're right, he does disappear in the role.
He's gone. The moment that... And I don't... Maybe it's subconscious or not, I don't know, but the first time you see him... his face is strangely CGI'd onto someone else's minute body for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
In the first Avenger, and then you get him and his actual body and his like him doing the whole thing. Like, oh, you get it all. And don't lie, your brain fills in the rest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Agent Carter gets a little in on him there. Just like, oh.
Yeah, she's like, okay.
Oh yeah, and
she is all of us in that moment.
That is a movie moment that is totally forgivable.
I don't know about all of us.
All of us, Mike. She is all of us.
Yes, she's our avatar. We're all jealous. Don't say you're not. You're lying. But you do like that moment. Like he is Steve Rogers right from the get go. He is Steve Rogers, and then he is Captain America, and there's something very Boy Scoutish about him that he's never lost, per se. There's some parts where, especially in like Civil War, where I think they start to introduce a part of his personality and his thought process that you then start to potentially disagree with, depending on which side of the issue you just might personally fall on. Like whether
if you don't side with Cap in Civil War, there's something wrong with your brain.
Well, but that's the thing is presenting definitive sides that one could choose. That they're presenting a dual point of view that someone may say, well, I see this, but I see that, and next. Even with that, that he is making the best choice that he honestly feels. He's not corrupt. He's not corruptible. That's what I think he's been able to portray about his character. I will say the one thing that I don't like about what they wrote for him, and I said this when we reviewed the movie, Infinity War, I absolutely hate that crap in most movies now where they decide like, oh, one person is not worth saving 1 billion. I don't personally fall down on that side of morality, so it's hard for me to follow that story where like Peter is like, I can't lose Gamora because 90.5 trillion billion lives might be lost in the universe, or we can't sacrifice Vision because of what like, and Cap falls down on that side of I will not give up one life to save everybody else. But
the thing is, Cap would give up his own life to do it if it was his own life. If his own life was that one, he would do it.
True, but he wasn't allowing Vision to make the choice for his own life.
And this is where I would end up in arguments with people. And I agree with you that Cap's wrong in that sense because Vision's not a person. He's a fucking robot.
Even so.
And
he's so much more.
Make another one. Make another one.
Even so. It's like I said, I understand that's the writing that he has been given. It's not, I get that. It's just his character anytime. My favorite moment, if I had to pick what did we had a favorite moments character.
We have a moment.
Yeah, we have a moment.
Okay. So I will save the last part that I'll save for my favorite moments, but there's another Cap time that comes with that I think encapsulates everything for him. So that's why if I even had to rank this category, he'd be number one for me.
And I personally, to go to your point, I have long said, I'm not a religious person, so what would Jesus do never really meant anything to me. But for a very long time, I have said, what would Captain America do? And that is how you should live your life, is make your decisions based on what Captain America would do. You'll lead a pretty damn good life. I'm not going to say better or worse than if you followed what would Jesus do, but I don't think you could go wrong doing what Captain America would do.
That's a fair point.
I'm done talking now.
Sarah's up.
Okay. Again, this was a hard one for me.
You know what? I'm just gonna let it go. I'm not like we could just fill the show.
I don't know if I necessarily have these in an order per se.
That's fine.
The character of Tony Stark is just so great, but I don't know if I would like him as much if it wasn't Robert Downey Jr.
That's also a fair point.
Like what he brings, like his little quips but the other thing that made me even more, I always liked him for the little sarcastic comments and the just stupid pop culture references that he throws in. When we rewatched Iron Man 3, I had forgotten the anguish that he was in that movie, and the panic attack and everything. And I really love just the kind of the trajectory that you get of Tony Stark and how he, Robert Downey Jr. is, for all the cockiness and the comments that he brings, he really brings a nuance to him in those moments of vulnerability. And in quieter moment, there were some of the moments with Pepper in that one, when she's dangling off the they're on a ship, aren't they? A cargo ship with
like a dock area.
And she's dangling, and he was like, "Swing, I'll catch you." And she falls, and they go to his face, and his face is just like that moment. Again, it's just one of the best just sequences for emotional range, because I think sometimes you get caught up for Tony Stark in that blustery persona, and you kind of forget about some of the other moments he's had throughout. But again, I don't know if it wasn't Robert Downey Jr. would I feel the same way. So I'm not sure.
This was a podcast we did way back when. I think it was Mike and Andy were on it. I wanted to get you, and you couldn't do it for some reason.
I remember this, yeah.
Which makes me want to revisit it, because I think I have all the notes somewhere, and it's still fun just to talk about every now and again. But at one point, Iron Man was not under Marvel Studios. It was sold out to another studio. They were trying to make a Iron Man movie late 90s, early 2000s with that superhero craze. Tom Cruise was in talks to play Tony Stark.
I think I did hear that. No.
Which, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I love him too, but it just doesn't.
He would have had to have run in the Iron Man suit instead of fly.
Going back to Chris Evans as Captain America, I would never see Tom Cruise as anything but Tom Cruise playing.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the three that was in the running for Cap, I don't remember who the third one was, but it came down to Chris Evans, somebody else, and John Krasinski. Costume tested and everything for Captain America, and didn't get the role.
I could have potentially, at least when I think of the initial aesthetic, I think I could see Krasinski, depending on what they wrote for him, depending on what they decided to try to do with him, whatever story they'd. I maybe
if it's basically just like Chris Evans, like the stuff they give Chris Evans to do, but it's Krasinski in the role. I could see that. I think Krasinski could do the same thing for that role that Chris Evans did.
Okay,
I think he's that good enough of an actor to do it.
Okay,
yeah.
They made the right choice, though.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'd rather see him recast. I think Chris Evans is perfect. But if we had an alternative, that would have been also the other alternative too was Emily Blunt was supposed to be Black Widow and couldn't do it because of scheduling, so they got Scarlett Johansson.
I heard she was also in the running for Captain Marvel.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
And I think she was also I forget, the scheduling might have been Black Widow. I remember that. I think Captain Marvel was either they just decided to go obviously a different direction. It also might have been, I forget if she was also recently pregnant.
Okay.
Because I think she might have been actually pregnant around the time they were making A Quiet Place. Mm-hmm. And so that also could have been it. Again, they might not have chosen her anyway.
Right.
But I could have bought that.
Even at the time, I always felt that Emily Blunt was a better choice
for
Black Widow.
Oh yeah, I think I would prefer that
because it's almost she looks more natural as a redhead. And it's not that Scarlett Johansson's been bad in any way. She's actually been great. it just, even at the time, it was like you look at the comic book and then you look at Emily Blunt, you're like, I see that.
Yeah.
Like they look the same. You look at Scarlett Johansson in the comic book and they don't.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm not at all disappointed with what she's done. So
this is maybe a not fair comment to make in its entirety, but there's sometimes where, especially in Infinity War, I found myself thinking this. There are scenes that Scarlett is in and she's a part of, but she doesn't always have the most to do in the scene. But because she's Scarlett Johansson, and you know how big of a name she is and how prominent she has been otherwise in these movies, and to me it almost seems a bit more awkward that she's there but quiet, or that she's there but not having a lot. And this is the part that maybe doesn't sound fair. It might be easier to look past Emily Blunt. I don't know if that's
more
the
of
right
a
way to
disappear
say
in the
it.
role type of thing.
Sort
which
of.
really does fit the spy part.
That if she is in her suit and leaning against the table in the scene while something has to go on over here that doesn't have to involve her saying something at that moment, I'm not going to be as aware that Black Widow is in the room and not a more important part of what's happening, as opposed to if that's Scarlett Johansson. That I don't know. As I said, that's an unfair bias to say, but that's I think what I've found.
Okay.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
haven't ever thought of that before, so I don't know how to respond.
Well, I guess in every other movie that Black Widow has been a part of so far, other than Infinity War, her scenes were very deliberate. Whenever she was there, it was for a reason. She was part of the proceeding. She contributed to it. She was a player. In Infinity War, and maybe that's not the fair part because it's the one that's really sticking out. Maybe it's a recency problem. Maybe there was just so many damn people in that movie that not everyone could have as much talking time and important time. But that more stood out to me in that she's a part of everything, but maybe it's because there's 30 other people around her that have to do something and say something that I realize, Black Widow's there, but she's just kind of there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. We were segueing into my... So I had Black Widow is one of my...
Oh, see, it all works out.
So it all works out. Only because I think I like that they've given her... You've seen more of parts of her story. I still want a Black Widow movie. I just want that.
It's apparently really coming.
I don't know.
That's what I hear.
We're going to find out soon enough,
Yeah,
because I'm
I just
assuming not
heard-
long after Endgame comes out, we're going to get a roadmap.
Right, and I
Yeah.
So
just the other, like a week ago, same thing when we saw the announcement for the Shang-Chi,
Yeah.
is that it?
Shang-Chi.
Movie, there was like a casting announcement for some other person casting this Black Widow movie.
Like, I keep
So-
hearing all the articles for it, and like they named a director, they have a script, but I've seen nothing official from Marvel saying this movie is happening.
I don't think Marvel wants to give anything official on anything right now like
Which
that.
I get, but until
Like-
I see that from them,
Sure.
I'm playing this all up as a rumor.
We pretty much have confirmation of 2 films right now, and
Right.
that's Far From Home and Guardians 3
Yes.
are the only ones confirmed to be
Fair.
happening after Endgame. So, but I think we're going to get that announcement, Sarah. I think you're going to get your Black Widow movie because I think everybody wants that.
Because they keep giving you enough, like... I like that you've learned more about her as she's progressed and her backstory, and she's not just played up as this, like, I'm this sexy spy and that's all I do, that she's a very formidable opponent. She is one of at least in like the original Avengers, she's pretty much the only one who doesn't have some kind of enhanced physical capabilities, like, because Cap is enhanced, Hulk is enhanced, Tony has the suit. Well, poor Hawkeye. It's her and Hawkeye.
Okay.
But
Just as long as we acknowledge
it's her and
Hawkeye's
Hawkeye.
there, too.
But it's the two of them, and they're like, well, they're spies. Which sometimes when they just say they're spies, I feel like that's selling them short, as far as, or trying to simplify maybe a skill set in a sense.
Well,
I don't know.
Believe it or not, in the comic book universe, she's actually supposedly gifted with the super ability of espionage.
What?
And they actually like say it's something that she is so remarkable at that it's considered a superpower.
Okay.
I'm not saying
I know.
I'm just conveying.
but I like the fact that they never show her, and I feel like they don't do the same for Hawkeye. They've done better. They never show her as less than, because she's not a god or an enhanced super soldier or
They've never
radiation
shown her,
or
like in a situation where like, oh well, thank God one of the other ones that do have these showed up, because otherwise she'd be toast.
Yeah, like they show her, and even there's times when she does things and the others are like, are you sure you want to do that? And then she doesn't, and they're like, oh, okay. Like when she is there with Cap and she's like, the Chitauri are flying overhead, and she's like, I could use a boost though, and he just kind of looks at her like,
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, it's great, it's fine. But I love that, and I think maybe that's part of it. Is I love Emily Blunt, and so maybe I'm just so used to how Scarlett Johansson has played it. I don't know how I would feel how her Black Widow would be.
I feel like most of the Emily Blunt thing is just that the character. The way the character is drawn looks like Emily Blunt. I think that's the biggest part of it, because acting-wise, Scarlett Johansson's done fantastic.
Yeah.
It's not anything like that. It's just the look of the character kind of falls to what Emily Blunt looks like.
And then the other thing I wanted to put Captain Marvel on here because I kind of had her up there too, but I feel like I need to know more about her in order for her to become my top favorite. But I have her next.
She's number 4.
I have her next to Black Widow as like.
Whereas Mike likes to do. She's 3B.
3A,
3B.
You know what? I didn't do it when we did that show. I skipped it out. I changed my list to make it fit.
Never gonna live it down.
My 6A and 6B were the live action versions of Lion King and Aladdin, and I felt like they went together. So I was trying to include them together, and it didn't get allowed. So I took them both off of my list entirely.
He's not bitter about it at all.
We still haven't let it go.
No.
What were we talking about?
Now
I
we're
blacked out for a minute.
but no, I have Captain America as kind of my top 2 because the same thing. I just I love his character, and the same thing. I think I never realized until you said it, Josh, that I don't see Chris Evans when I look at the character. Now, when I see Chris Evans in real life, I kind of see Captain America. But a lot of the times what he does just fits with, like at the Oscars when he, helped her untangle her dress. I was like, oh my gosh, there we go. But I think there's a lot of things that he does that I'm just like, oh, he is Captain America. But yeah, I love Cap. I really do.
Good picks.
Yes.
Mike, you're up.
Okay, so for me, Tony's on my list as well. You pretty much nailed that on why he's so great. I also include Hawkeye, Clint. He doesn't get enough love, for one. And
I feel like we've consistently thought he was going to die in like every one of these movies.
You know what? When I went back and listened to a lot of these for the clip show, it seems like every other moment somebody's saying Hawkeye's going to die. And I'm like, he's the one that's been portrayed as a family man.
Well, the thing is, I think that the difference is I don't think we're wanting him to die. I don't think it's us wanting him to die. I think he is the most obvious choice
it makes
to
the
die.
Situationally makes the most sense that he would survive.
And up until Ultron, I would say yes, maybe. Mm-hmm. But then they made him the family man. They made
and I get
him,
that now, yes.
Yeah.
You're widowing a wife and, giving these children a home without a father and all these horrible things that would happen if Hawkeye dies. But at the same time, the fact that he is, I think, the most human among them is something
still the most grounded in
the everyday
of the reality.
Right.
Yeah.
He is the one of, even I'd say more than Black Widow, he's putting himself at the most risk by being with them. He's the most vulnerable, which we see in Ultron when they target him.
He even says, he's like, I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
Right. The very beginning, they target him because he's the weakest among them. But he still, in spite of this, is going out there and fighting alongside gods and the Hulk and all so many of these characters.
Even says that to him.
Yeah, and it's he has personality and everything along with all of that, and he's just that guy who can hold the team together in spite of everything. And in my top spot, I have Thor. Okay. I don't get along with my father. Thor doesn't get along with his father. It resonates well with me in that sense. But Thor in general has an arc that takes him from immaturity to maturity, and back through a lot of different conflicts that are an interesting experience to go along. He's the one here that is dealing with family conflict. The rest of these people are dealing with external conflict. Thor has to deal with the fact that his brother is invading New York, that his father is kind of a dick, that, so many of these things that is different than what the other characters are dealing with, I think make him very interesting. That and it's just his superpowers are fucking cool. It couldn't be anybody else but Thor for me. I think my own interest in Norse mythology plays into that a little bit, but that's recent and I haven't got into it much, so that could change. We'll see.
Next week the list changes.
Well, it is.
That's all of us, though. I'm not saying just you.
Sure. Well, I mean, in Endgame, there could be a new character altogether that we don't know about that takes over the list, and could take up all 3 spots because they're so awesome. Who knows? I'll pass it on.
So, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. We've already touched on that. Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is also. I love him. And I have Captain America as well. But my 4th though was Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
Oh, there goes my 3rd.
That's a good. Okay, yeah, that's a good pick.
I was like, nobody talked about Spider-Man yet. But
Sorry. Yeah.
I think I'm also, to some degree, maybe rock it a little bit. I know I'm suffering from the characters who I've been with the longest. Most of them that immediately come to like a strong impression are basically like the core team. Like anyone from Phase 1.
Yeah.
Tom Holland, we've been with only like, say, maybe combined 2-ish movies. Because just a little bit that he was in Civil War, and then he was not in all of Infinity War because it's all split up.
Yeah.
Not. I think it's just I haven't had enough time with him yet.
Sure.
That's a strong pick.
Yeah, I mean he was good for me in Civil War, but he completely won me over in Homecoming. Homecoming is so fucking good.
Yeah.
He just is. He just seems like he is Spider-Man.
Yeah. Lovable dork. That's what he seems like.
It was also good, and not that. Again, I'm a hard writer for Andrew Garfield. I think I tend to like the Amazing Spider-Man movies more than most people do. But with Tom Holland, I think it was a good choice if they were going to recast the character again so quickly.
Yeah.
That they went with someone effectively that nobody knew.
Yeah.
You did not really have a preconception of this actor, of anything. You could just walk in, and the first time you see him in that apartment in Civil War, like, oh, there's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Not there's that guy playing the part. There's Peter Parker.
I liked his, the childish excitement that he got to whenever he was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be Avenger.
Even just the moment where he gets crowned an Avenger in Infinity War, and he, you see it, how emotional it is for him for that moment. It's fucking great.
And he tries to toughen up at that moment. He tries to, man
sniff
up
it
a
off
little bit.
and yeah. That's good.
I love that he's still, even in those last moments, he still calls him Mr. Stark.
Yeah.
He will not call him Tony, not Iron Man. He's Mr. Stark. I'm sorry.
So all of my 3 have been mentioned. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. He kicked off the whole thing, so it's hard not to. We've been with him the longest. He has set such the stage for everything that follows. He's definitely stand out for me. Tom Holland Spider-Man, because I think he's just so great in the role, and Chris Evans is Cap. Those are my 3. So we've talked about them pretty extensively, so I think we're good. Next category, top 3 villains. Josh.
All right, I will try to put these in an order. So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of overlap on these as well, but one that I picked that I doubt anyone else will have.
Malekith.
Yeah, we were going through the villains last night.
Did you want to guarantee no one else has it? Choose Malekith.
Yeah, anything from Dark World. Just anything from Dark World. I guess if I pick a number 3 per se, Baron Zemo.
Okay. Yeah.
I really, really dig Daniel Bruhl's performance in Civil War immensely, and I think the theme that runs through all of mine take some liberties with this definition, but the most humanizing villains. Like Killmonger was a strong, 3.5, for instance.
Yeah.
Zemo was one of the most effective villains who had no power. Basically had very little resources. He had ideas, he had intellect, he had, access to information, and some resources and whatnot. But it wasn't again, we just rewatched Iron Man 3 last night. It wasn't like Killian Aldrich. Now I have amassed money, I have people, I have technology. He didn't
Dragon breath.
Dragon breath helped. It just he had motivation, and he masterminded it without also being you couldn't just say his super villain ability was he's not the brainiac, he's not the thinker, he's smart and strategic and calculating, and he's good at it, but it's not because he's an overly intellectual person per se. There wasn't a thing you could point to that said, oh, this easily explains how he was able to do that. And his motivation was so misguided, but still very understandable, very human in a way. You could see why he was doing what he was doing, and you didn't. And this is just me. I didn't really. I don't want to say obviously I thought he was wrong for it and the things that he did, bombing the UN and whatnot, of course, but it wasn't as one-dimensional as some of the other villains have been. My plan is to conquer. My plan is to overthrow. His plan was destabilization. He didn't want to rule. He wanted to stop someone else from being in power, ultimately. And that's almost what superheroes do, is stopping someone else from being in control. And it's kind of the just polar opposite mirror reflection of that. So he really resonated with me.
Also feel like he's one of those people, though, that I don't know if this helps or hurts you, but he has one of those convoluted plot. His plan is well, this needs to happen for this to happen, and then this has to happen to be there at this exact time for this to happen. Yeah. So when you think about his plan, it's how the fuck does that even work? But for the sake of a movie, it's fine. Exactly. Because
if that's your plan from the beginning, then there's 48 linchpins you can pull out that make the whole thing crumble. Right. But it's also difficult to point out, if this is where you want to end up, you can't just send Tony a tape that said, because number one, he didn't have the information at the beginning. Which, again, what would have happened if the one Hydra agent he tortures says, okay, it all happened on this date, this is what, you don't have to go through all that shit. Sure.
So what happens at that point?
This is true. So there's maybe some shortcuts to get where he wants. Yeah. But getting the end result is not just, making an anonymous phone call to Stark Tower and saying, Cap's buddy killed your parents. And
by the way, I knew your dad.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah. So watching that all play out was very interesting for me. This is not surprising. Number 2 is Loki.
If he's not on everyone's list, I'm going to be very surprised.
For the most part, yeah. But
Sarah's going to smack you.
I'm just going to move on from that because I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Sarah will go off on it.
And then number 1, number 1 for me was Thanos. Being behind the scenes of everything that had been bothering our heroes, if you will, for so long, and being the connective tissue that affected so many different groups and whatnot, and then kind of being the puppet master to Loki in certain regards. Infinity War was what the filmmakers wanted to do. They did not tell the story of the Avengers and the Guardians fighting somebody. Infinity War was a movie about Thanos.
Yeah.
And these other people happened to be in it. And if they hadn't gone that way, I don't think it would have had this same effect.
No, I agree.
And it wouldn't have been as good. So the impression that was left on me, because we get what collectively 90 seconds of Thanos in any other appearance that he's basically in the other movies. A little bit more, maybe 3 minutes. But Infinity War really solidified that for me. Sara.
Yep, good picks.
No. So
Loki.
No. My number 3 is actually the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay. Good pick.
And I love the fact that there is the progression that he goes through. And not only just because like his scenes are really exciting and like the fight scenes are always really good, but there is that. I like when he's starting to turn the brainwashing is they're starting to break through that, and he's starting to get those flashes of past things that he's done, both as the Winter Soldier and then like when he was Bucky, and just the way that Sebastian Stan kind of plays it, you get that conflict. And so when he makes that transition from villain to he's trying to be redeemed, but especially his whole arc through Winter Soldier, I really like that end fight with him and Cap, where he seems he's so angry at Cap, but he's so angry at himself too for the truth, or the fact that like Cap won't fight him, and he's like, I know who you are, and he's so like mad about it and so conflicted. So he's like, I don't know. It's just something about the way that Sebastian Stan plays that whole thing is I think he makes a really interesting foil for Captain America for that part. I have Killmonger as my second. I just really, he's another one, like you said, where he's very humanizing, like his reasons, and for when you look at stuff, you're like, his ultimate end goal and what he wants as far as like going out and basically the conquering and saying is wrong. But some of his points, as convoluted and like twisted and wrong as they are, you're like, but I see how he got there. I see where these events in his life pushed him to this point. And maybe if he would have grown up in Wakanda, if he would have known his father differently, if his father would have lived, and there's all these things like, how would he have turned out? And while you kind of see his point as to the way that he feels about the way that Wakanda is, the way that he was raised. And I think a lot of that is Michael B. Jordan's performance too. I don't know how somebody else might have played that, as far as how much of that was obviously what was written and what was given him, but just the way that he portrays a lot of things in that. I just really liked the conflicted stuff, especially end scene with T'Challa and how he takes him out to see that view of Wakanda and everything, and he makes that comment about his ancestors from the jump from the ships because they wouldn't be slaves. Like just that it was very poignant. I loved that whole part. And yes, Loki was number 1 for me. But again, I love that character, and I just love I love him in Avengers. Loki is my pinnacle.
Yeah.
And as much as Thor: The Dark World, like it had so many problems. I feel like a lot of Loki's little parts in it at least gave me glee.
Well, I thought that's what I remember hearing, was that they had a version of Thor: The Dark World with not a lot of Loki, and then Avengers came out.
Yeah.
And it was like, more Loki. We need more Loki.
And I think the parts, the levity and some of the better parts of The Dark World are because of what they did with Loki. Like when
the two of them together.
The two of them exactly. And the part like when Jane Foster hits him and he's like, I like her.
Yeah.
And then when he is shifting and he puts himself into Captain America's suit and he's like, feel the righteousness surging through. And then you have to press it gently. I am pressing it gently. Like, yeah, it's the combination of the two for that. But I feel that, yes, Thanos is the puppet master. But again, if you look at the way that in Loki's brain, he looks at the way he was treated as a child, what he perceived as the differences between him and Thor, how Thor was treated, how he was treated, even though Thor will say, like, we were raised together. He doesn't see that. He's like, I just saw us together as the same. and the struggle that he has with who he really is as far as lineage and things like that. Again, I think there's more nuance parts in his performances.
The best villains are always the ones you can relate to or pick up on their storylines and understand why they're doing what they're doing.
And he has some really great lines too.
Yes.
So yeah, there's my 3.
Mike?
Well, as you said it, and I, for one, am not burdened with glorious purpose. Loki does not make my list. Thanos is number 1. Just obvious reasons for that. Josh covered that pretty well. Number 2 on my list, I don't necessarily want to say Ultron as much as I want to say James Spader.
Okay.
James Spader made that character work so well for me, and my sense of humor, it just, some of the things that I think some people might not find as funny, I cracked up laughing at. When he cuts off Claw's arm and he's like, "Oh, that looks like it hurts."
That'll grow back, right?
Yeah. Like he's confused. Like he has moments of rage mixed in with like brilliance, and it, clearly you've never made an omelet, and there's just so much from Ultron that really, really works. And just his simple approach to, I think, kind of what you were saying about Zemo, and that Zemo just doesn't want the Avengers anymore. He's just kind of trying to break them. And that's very much what Ultron is doing. In that, he working towards the Avengers' extinction, as he puts it. It's fantastic. Now, the rest of that movie obviously has some of glaring issues and whatnot, but James Spader, just too damn good. I couldn't get past that. Robert California will always work for me.
That's an Office joke.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
sorry,
That's an Office joke for
filling
people
in
that haven't
Sara,
watched The
yeah.
Office. That's a thing. And my third on my list is The Vulture. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is just so damn good. And, like, the speech he gives to Peter in the car is, to me, the best moment of that movie. It's the best, acted moment. It just works on so many levels for me when he's saying to Peter, like, "Oh, I know who you are. Now get in there and, give her a good, good dance." And it's just like, he's so intimidating while still being Michael Keaton. And the same kind of thing where the character's humanized. He gets screwed over by Stark and the government, and they create their own villain out of this. I think at the beginning of Iron Man 3, Stark talks about, like, creating his own villains.
Yeah.
And he does it once again with the Vulture. And the way they make the tech and the costume that they put together, which was always kind of a cinematic hurdle for putting the Vulture into a movie, because him in his comic book costume would not fucking work in a movie.
I was actually wishing we would have had more time with him in that suit in that movie, like being tactical, being used in a way, because it looked great, but I don't know why if they were worried about the look of it being on screen too much or not. But I don't know, in order to, like, get the feel of, this is the Vulture, I could have used a little bit more.
Yeah, more of a good thing's never bad.
Yeah.
And we may still see more, because he's only in prison. He's
still on the board.
Dead.
Yes. We think.
Yeah, we don't know what happened during the snap. Maybe the Sinister Six is the Sinister Two. I just enjoyed the hell out of Michael Keaton in everything he does.
Sure.
And every aspect of that character was awesome.
Leslie, you are up.
Okay, so My number 3 was the Mandarin because I love Ben Kingsley's.
Trevor.
Yeah,
Trevor Slattery.
They told me they would give me even more drugs. Yeah, we really enjoyed watching that last night, I think. I haven't seen it. I think we forgot about it for a while. I kind of put it on the back burner with some of the others, and it was much better than I remember it.
Yeah.
But then I had Killmonger as my number 2. And part of the reason I loved him, too, is because there was moments where I thought he was going to win. If that's
fair, yeah.
A lot of villains, you're like, all right, you're gonna get what's coming. But you're like, oh my gosh, I kind of side with you at some points. Like, maybe you win, but I don't want you to win, but I kind of do. You feel bad for him, but I don't know. I like that character a lot. And then Vulture was my number 1 because I knew nothing about him before. So when when you find out that he is what's her face's mom or dad, I was like, ooh, I had that shock moment, So it was so exciting for me.
Is there that same relationship in? Well, first of all, is there a character in the Spider-Man lore that Peter is smitten with that the Vulture turns out to be the father? Or was that a complete...
I don't think. I think that's for the movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they did that on their own.
Which is fine. Yeah, it worked.
Because I didn't see that coming either.
No. That was
I
good.
didn't either.
That was a good reveal.
Yeah. But again, everything you said about him, I just love the way he was played. And I love Michael Keaton. He's very good at being any character.
I mean, even his nonchalant attitude after they screw him over, like, you know what? We'll keep it. We'll keep the tech. Screw them. We'll figure out what to do with it.
Okay, so my 3, all of my 3 have been talked about. Killmonger was number 3 for me. I love Michael B. Jordan, and he brought something I thought significant to that role where it stood out enough. And just after having like so many of the other, especially like Phase 1 villains that are largely forgettable, that finally getting into the deeper phases, and they're finally starting to figure out how to make compelling villains, which is good. Obviously, Loki made my list. He's my number 2. He's at least the one from Phase 1 that stood out. And actually, they gave him more to do. They gave him more movies to play with, so you could build that character. He was a lot of fun to watch on screen. Hiddleston kills it. So he's on there for me. And number 1 is Thanos. I thought just having that big of a bad that's been teased, and I think Josh Brolin had such a fun time playing that character that you feel it when he's playing the role. Even all the mocap and whatever else he had to go through. It just, I want to see, like, because I keep hearing about it, but I don't find a lot of videos of like him just having fun in the getup that he had to wear when he's acting with these people. I hear people talk about how much fun he was on set and all that stuff, and how much he was loving pretending with all this stuff. But I haven't seen behind the scenes video showing me that.
So we haven't bought any of the Phase 3 stuff yet. Is there anything in like the extras on the Blu-rays?
Some of the behind the scenes stuff I watched, there's very quick things of him like dancing with Hemsworth in the get up that he's wearing, but nothing like showing him acting and like joking around with people on set and stuff like that. So if it's out there somewhere, I haven't seen it, but that's something I'd like to see because I think he just has that much fun with it. I'd like to see it.
Mm-hmm. So I also realize, like, after this many categories, it seems like most of us, we keep stealing some of the potential thunder that you and Leslie have.
I know we can go the other direction.
Like change order for a couple rounds or anything?
I would not, because I'm at the point now where I think all my categories, I wrote a bunch of stuff in hopes of other people claiming some of the stuff that I have. So I kind of want to go last so I can cross stuff off as we go.
Leslie, would you like to go
So
first
no pressure.
instead of me? It's up to you.
It doesn't matter. I don't even remember what we have left.
Well, Brian
next
will
up
tell
is
you.
moments. Top 3 moments.
It was difficult to narrow down this list.
I know. I feel like I could. And even, again, as we're talking, I'm thinking about more that I did not include on my list.
Do you want to start this one off, or is this not that exciting for you?
I can. I'm trying to...
Go for it.
I'm looking through it. All right. So this isn't in any sort of order.
Sure.
This one. It sounds horrible to say favorite moments with this, but the Groot's death in one. Not a favorite moment, but such a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about We Are Groot.
Yeah.
We Are
Okay.
Groot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gosh, that.
I think that was the first time in that movie that I lost my shit.
That was it.
Seeing it for the first time, I was like, this is fun, and I'm having a good time. This is a good world. But that happened, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh, what's happening?
It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful and like peaceful, and
they establish earlier in that movie that he can produce the like lights out of himself. So when he has everyone inside, you see those floating around to illuminate everybody. Yeah,
They're probably toxic spores.
Everyone died later anyway.
Good pull.
So not necessarily like happy.
Yeah.
It's a great moment.
Yeah. I also like the hammer scene in Age of Ultron where they're all trying to pick up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
See, that was on my list, so I'm
That's
crossing
a
it off.
good one.
Yeah, whenever Cap is there and Thor's just like, oh god, I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like how Black Widow was just like, I don't need to know the answer to that. Like, she didn't
Yeah.
even know it. She was like, nope.
She's like, go ahead, man. I'm fine over here.
And that moment leads to such a good payoff later in the movie when
Yes.
Vision just easily picks it up
Yes.
off screen.
Yes.
Yanks it up like, here's your hat.
Yeah.
Here's this piece of paper that you don't want to forget.
That's
Yeah.
one thing I give Joss Whedon for is the setups and payoffs that he writes
Yes.
in those movies.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was also fun too, just to see them all just like doing what we're doing, just sitting around
Having fun.
having
Honestly, that's the highlight of Age of Ultron for me, is that scene.
Yeah. I do love that scene.
Hawkeye with his inexplicable drumsticks. They don't even establish. Do they even establish that
I-
there's like
Thought
a drum
about that.
set
He's
in
just
this,
a-
like anywhere around?
He's a handsy dude. He's got to fiddle with stuff.
Well, like they're at a party. Was there any like live music that it made
you
sense
know-
for like any? I'm trying to. Like,
He played
I'm
earlier in the
going
night.
to
You
have
didn't
to
see it.
watch Age of Ultron again
I don't.
and see if there's a drum set in his
Yeah.
house at the farm.
I remember
Just to
looking
be
for
like-
that, and I couldn't. I don't remember
They're at,
seeing
like, they're
it.
I've never
at
looked
Stark
for it.
Tower.
Which presumably they all have like a living space there.
Something maybe right. So because that's kind of like Avengers headquarters so far, like still at that time. So you're there, and yeah, like it's never established that there's any reason. So did he just have? Does he carry them with him? This is like his
The big
fidget
lingering
spinner?
plot hole for you. That's
I remember seeing that and that was this has been a plot hole of his since
doesn't make sense.
that
The
movie
little known
came
spoiler
out.
about Endgame: you are getting a Scott Pilgrim-esque drum battle from Hawkeye at some point.
Yeah, you don't know.
Spoiler, sorry, I had to spoil
it's not a
that one
base-off,
for
they
you.
go for drum solos.
Josh, you're going to have to reactivate Twitter so you can tweet at Joss Whedon and ask him about said drumsticks.
It's not about reactivating. I just have to freaking use it.
Well, either way.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Guys, go ahead.
Well, so scene 3, it's the Captain America scene when he comes out of the searing tanning bed thing and he's and sweaty. Yes. It made me laugh because we were talking about it. I was like, oh.
He's got the beef sweats going on, and I liked it.
Deep sweats.
But that was a moment. That was a definitely.
I like the beef sweats.
Just screensaver on your computer.
That's a gif.
Just the thing opening, and he's just.
doors opening. It's like silent, deep breaths.
But yeah, so that's my moment.
You like Photoshop yourself.
Brian, do you have the same Captain America moment?
I did not write that Captain America moment down.
There were so many moments though. Like it's hard to really.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. I just kept thinking of them and typing them down, being like, no, not that one.
Mike,
All
go
right,
for it.
so for me, for number 3 is the first Avenger, or not first Avengers. Yeah, first Avengers. Sorry, I don't know what I'm getting tongue-tied for. First Avengers, post-credit scene, Thanos reveal. It's kind of the first time we get a sense that this really is going to play on for a long time into one big payoff storyline.
Yeah.
As opposed to just a continuing, like, oh, we got Loki in this Avengers, we'll get Ultron in the next one, we'll get this, and it's going to be one huge storyline that we're going to get throughout all these movies, and it's leading to Thanos of all things. That, the first time I saw it in the theater, I was just, my jaw hit the floor, like, holy shit, they're going to actually do this.
See, I knew nothing about it, but they sold that impression in 30 seconds. That was it.
This is a guy to watch out for.
I think
Yes.
if you ask Amy, I can remember I may have shoved her a bit too many times when like the I guess he's a Chitauri, the priest or whatever that guy is with him. Mm-hmm. As soon as he says, "Oh, to court death," and I'm just like shaking her, like, "Oh, holy shit, they're gonna do that," which I'm still sad they haven't paid off on that at all yet. Because that's such a huge part of the character that they just have left out. But the initial reveal of Thanos was just a holy shit moment. For number 2, this should be on everybody's list ever for anything, which it's only number 2. How's that happen? I just have it titled as "Bring Me Thanos," and Thor's return to the battlefield in Wakanda. And the reason for this, like Bruce popping out of the Hulkbuster armor and being like, "Oh, you guys are screwed now." That's fun and everything. When Thor leaps into the air with Stormbreaker, it is the single most comic book moment they have put on screen. He jumps into the air, the sky turns black for just a moment before he comes crashing to the ground and takes out, 100 some odd of the weird dog things. I don't know what they are. The beasts. And it's just that moment where you feel like they actually put comic book on screen without, simplifying it in any way.
This is something I realized off and on since seeing Infinity War, but I haven't asked anyone about their thoughts. When Bruce when Heimdall sends Hulk Bruce back to Earth, he says to Tony at some point once he finds him, he says, "Thor is gone." Is Bruce under the impression that Thor's dead?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when Thor reappears, it is like news to him. Like, not only are you here, you're even alive at all. He's probably assuming that when he left, like, everybody was killed.
Yeah, he doesn't know Thanos' plan is... Well, no, I guess he does know half the universe because he tells that to Tony.
Yeah.
But he's assuming that by the time, like,
but since Thor was throwing down with Thanos,
as much
Thanos
destruction
as
what he saw by the time he left, he's assuming one way or another Thor's probably dead. Okay, so it's as much of a surprise that he's even alive, let alone he joined us here for this fight. Okay.
Yeah, and it's that saving moment when they're all getting overrun. They're all, like at that point, Cap is screwed. Bruce is screwed. Everybody's in a really bad spot. Thor comes, the hammer just takes everything out off of all of them.
See, Bruce's reaction,
arrives.
That's why it wasn't as clear to me what he thought, because it's not only him. To me, there wasn't as much of a shock or an exclamation of, "I thought you were dead."
Right.
Like more like our backup arrived. Our ringer is here. You guys are done.
Right.
That's all it got to me. So I wasn't sure what everyone else's impression of that was.
And one of the other things I would say with that moment is that it leads to a few fantastic moments in and of themselves that follow shortly after. The interaction between Thor and Cap with, the beard and the haircut, and they talk like that. It leads to the "I am Steve Rogers" moment with Groot.
Yeah.
And it leads directly to Rocket and Bucky having the conversation about the gun and the arm.
Yeah.
All of this follows immediately right after that, and it just keeps piling on to such a fun moment in the movie. Yeah. And for me, number one is the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. When Peter sees his mother, and take my hand, Peter.
That was the second time I lost it.
It's the only time I lost it for that one.
Yep.
And they come together as a family at that moment, and that scene and the way it's depicted is just so great. But between him reaching for her and then Drax coming in and essentially getting like the tag team tag into it, and Rocket comes in and can only actually grab a finger, and it just, all of it plays so well into everything that was going on. And Lee Pace, give it to him for that moment when he realizes he's fucked. And the way he plays it, like, how? And then they just say, you said it yourself. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy, bitch. And that to me was just like, we're a family now. Mm-hmm. And that, more than the Power Stone, was the reason that they were able to overcome.
Good pick.
So,
I like it.
Good list. Sarah, I think you're up.
Okay. I also had the attempt to lift Thor's hammer / it's really small, but Get Help just gets me every time from Thor. We're not doing Get Help.
Because the whole time, I think everyone do the same thing. They're talking about it. You're like, what the hell is this going to be? And then in the end, it's literally, I'm just going to throw you at them. And then he does it, and he just throws, classic.
Yeah. My other one I love is just it's the part in the very first Avengers where you'd almost be like the Avengers assemble moment where you hear the theme and the camera pans around them standing in a circle, and they're like finally all kind of there, and that
was crossed off and replaced for me a couple of times trying to make this list up.
And then my number one, it was between two of them, and one's funny and one's sentimental. Okay, the puny god scene for Avengers, where he does like the whole, like he has the outburst, and then Hulk just picks him up and and then he just makes that noise.
I think I've said this before. The first time I saw Avengers was I think Saturday of opening weekend. So we went for a matinee, and packed house, completely sold out. At least I missed Hulk saying puny god the first time.
I think
because
the first
people
2 or 3
were
times,
still laughing so hard.
You knew he said something. If you were looking at the screen, you could see
Yeah.
his lips moved, but you're like, oh.
The whole time, and they were legitimately laughing, not like a fun cheer or anything. People lost it because they did not see that coming at all.
Yeah.
Well, it's the fact like all of a sudden you just see him almost drop out of frame because he yanks him.
Yes.
Like it's in the middle of his like so emphatic with it.
And not to mention he takes a pause in the middle of it too because it's
Yeah.
and then
Just has that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like anyone like that knows Hulk is like Hulk would not sit there and listen to this bullshit.
Yeah.
Like he would do something and then it happens and you're like, oh shit, he is.
But then my sentimental one was the end of Winter Soldier when Cap's in the hospital and Falcon is sitting there playing the Trouble Man soundtrack, and he just wakes up and goes, "On your left." And
Good pick.
I just love that. So it was like sentimental versus funny. I don't know.
All right, Josh.
Yeah,
You're up.
Not a particular order. So the beginning of mine was the same thing. I called it the first Avengers circle shot.
I have that on
money
my
shot.
list too. Yeah.
Avengers
the money
1,
shot.
It
really
do the
is, though.
rounds. You hit the theme. It was
Like, there's not many memorable like themes in any of these movies.
True.
But
Except
that
for
theme
Avengers.
stands out because of that shot.
yes,
Yes.
specifically. And I actually is that music used before that moment in that movie? I think it's actually in the beginning.
Yeah, you
when
might
you get the title card.
Well, yeah, you get the title card. Yeah.
Other than that, I'm not positive if it might, but
I don't think so.
I don't think it.
But even if it is, you're right.
You might get
That-
hints, but that's the first time you hear
that
it as
solidified
the theme.
Yeah.
that, and I think that was after the gamble that they took in 2006, 2005, deciding
We're all just waiting for that
we
moment.
still have rights to these characters. We have to play nice with Universal for the Hulk in some regards. Here's what we're going to try to do for the next couple of years. And remember, it was 2 years. 2 whole years between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Iron Man and Hulk had come out 2 months apart in the first year. And then it was 2 years before anything else happened.
Yeah.
And then a whole full year before anything else happened after that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got 2 movies the same year, very close together again. And then a whole year after that until you got Avengers. And I think that was after all that stretch, once Iron Man did well, and they said there's the thirst for this character. Let's gamble. Okay, let's go on. We can definitely get a second one out of this. We're gonna put all our eggs in the basket. Fine. Let's break on the others. You get that shot, and I think even though that's close to the end of the movie, I think that is what they at least figured. We can at least do one more phase. We can get one more round out of this, no matter what. But that is like such an iconic thing out of 20-some movies.
Yeah.
Nearly everybody knows that shot.
Yeah.
The other two, in no particular order again, for me, again, the Guardians World, especially Guardians Volume 2, had such a big effect on me. Yondu's funeral scene specifically for me.
Yeah.
He's laid out on the table. After the whole battle, and the screen kind of fades to black, and it comes up very subtly with that low candle lighting, and it shows them placing the little trinkets around Yondu's body on the table, and like that little glass thing from the broker's office when he was asking.
The little frog.
Yeah, he's like, I don't even remember how he asks the question, but he just says, "I like to put them up all on the line on my control panel." And the guy says, "I can't tell if you're joking or not." That little throwaway line, and like if you remember that, then it comes back when they place it next to him.
Yeah.
And you see the troll that Peter hid in the orb at the end of the first one. The whole speech he gives that was mentioned earlier was in the game, right? About turned out David Hasselhoff. I did have a pretty cool dad. Then again, like the interaction with Kraglin, the Ravagers show up, and Kraglin's reaction, and Rocket looking up, realizing they're there, and saying, "They came," in just such a low voice.
I feel like you just reenact the whole scene.
Oh, I freaking
Yeah,
could.
you could.
The dialogue that he and Quill have about all the things that he
Somebody
did,
still gets a little teary every time we watch this.
a
That's
lot.
fair. That's fair.
A lot.
This is his. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And then he goes out in like the rainbow arrow of ash, like into the cosmos. It gets me. It's perfectly done.
I agree.
My last one is what I was alluding to earlier with Cap. One of my absolute favorite shots of any of these movies is Cap single-handedly trying to bear the weight of Thanos' hand and prevent him just from doing anything, let alone close his fist to do anything.
Yeah.
And just that intense look of, you will have to kill me to get me to stop. I am exerting every last spirit of energy I have, but that is the only way you're going to get me to stop. And Thanos looking at him almost like, I don't know if he's...
It's quizzical.
Almost, and I can't tell if it's... And maybe it's a mixture of, I'm pretty sure you're just human, so how are you doing this? And I'm curious about you.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, look at how hard you're trying.
I feel like
I'm impressed.
The type of look he gives, the feeling
He's evaluating
that he gets when he says to Gamora about Star-Lord, like, "Oh, I like this one."
Yeah.
I feel like he's getting that same feeling there about Cap in that moment, because he's got the heart to stand up to him in spite of everything, just like Star-Lord had the heart to do what was necessary and actually pull that trigger. So I feel like he's seeing that kind of same heart in these different leaders. And I think it might be, perhaps, maybe it's a bold statement to say, but maybe that's the moment he realizes he's going to lose anyways, in spite of
Cap or Thanos.
Thanos. He sees the spirit that's going to overcome in spite of all odds.
All right.
And he's looking at it like, what am I going to do about this? Maybe.
There's definitely something behind his eyes in that look that he gives Cap as he's being resisted, and that very quick, like 4-second interaction with the two of them. Absolutely love it.
No, Josh, I'm pretty sure you avoided all the trailers for Infinity War, right?
Correct.
That came out. Did everybody else watch the trailers for Infinity War?
I haven't watched this. Isn't there a second
Not
one?
Endgame, for Infinity War.
Oh, Infinity War. I'm sorry.
When they were out.
At some point, I may have gone back and watched some of them.
in it.
Right. And I think there was misdirection in that shot of the trailer, because I feel like they changed Cap's eye color in
the
that
trailer.
shot of the trailer to
They
make you
did.
think he's under, like, Thanos is trying to control him at that moment that he's stopping with the gauntlet. So
And it
all of us
wasn't
watching the
changed in
trailer
the
like,
actual
Cap's going to go
movie.
bad. That was what I came out of the trailer thinking. And that moment plays out in the movie, and it's nothing like that.
Yeah, and his
Okay.
eyes don't change color.
Yeah.
None of that happens. But they turned a
remember
very
that.
clear color of yellow in those trailers.
Yes.
Like you could,
Interesting.
it was like
I
definitely
don't
Cap
remember
has
that.
yellow eyes, and you're like,
So
Huh?
I do know there's a shot in one of those trailers that shows, like, especially Bruce as Hulk, with
Yes.
like, the gang in Wakanda,
Yeah, the hero
like,
shot
running
of-
forward into
yeah,
battle.
that was another
and that's
misdirection
obviously
on their
not
part.
gone.
Complete misdirection.
So I
for
wonder
the-
like how much of that was restructured, rethought, reshot, or whatever. So maybe there was something to that at the beginning. Like why include a shot like that?
I honestly think
with
they do
that
purpose
eye
Misdirection to keep
Purposely
people
misdirection.
surprised by what's going to happen, so that you
Guess.
think about other things instead of what's really going to happen.
Yeah, so you're
that's
not
fair.
complete. So you come out of the trailer thinking one thing, so they can still
We have
surprise
to show you something. We have to produce X number of
Right.
trailers and previews. Let's just completely lie to you.
Plus, if I was them, how much fun would that be? Just to purposely fuck with people. So when you see the movie, you are actually surprised, which is what the filmmakers intend.
Yeah, well, but I think they enjoy doing things like that, so
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely see it not being a mistake that
All right,
they
fair
did
enough.
things the way they did things, which makes me wonder about the trailers I have seen
Right.
for Endgame, and I'm like,
So it'll be fun, like after seeing the movie, going back and watching all these trailers for Endgame again, with the movie fresh in your mind. Like, well, that's not in there. That's not in there. That's different. Like that could be fun.
All right, you'll see how that works out. So you're up.
Yeah. All right. So I was trying to write some on the fly. Some of them are taken. The Age of Ultron, lifting the hammer was mine. Avengers Assemble I had on my list. I thought of I Am Steve Rogers, and then Mike took it. I guess it's part of a battle, but it's more the end of the battle, is when Thanos and Tony face off, and Thanos stabs Tony. That, like, everybody's heart sinks in the theater when that happens, and that's such like you feel like something's going to happen. We all predicted Tony could be the one to go in that movie, so when that happened, it's one thing to say
really
it, and it's one
happening.
thing to see it on screen. So you're like, oh shit, this is real.
And all of that circumstance made absolute sense. It came
Yeah.
down to one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat with the big bad, the biggest bad that they've given you the whole time.
Yeah.
And that happens.
And even the two of them
yeah.
with their conversation.
Yeah,
of,
the
like,
dialogue,
he
all of
recognizes him. He knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
So
all
there's that
for a drop of
recognition.
blood
Yeah.
and nothing.
Another one for me, the car chase in Winter Soldier with Nick Fury in his armored vehicle.
Good call.
I fucking
Yes.
love that
Good
scene.
call.
Yes. Air conditioning is
Yeah,
fully functional.
the AI in the car is great. The fact that it's just got a freaking minigun in the armrest.
Yeah.
And the way he times it with the battering ram on the side of the car, and the way it ends with Winter Soldier blowing him up and flipping him over, all that, fantastic.
Yeah.
And the top one for me is still from the very first Iron Man movie when he ends his press conference telling the world exactly who he is.
Yeah,
That was
that
on
got
my
crossed
list,
off
and
my
took-
list.
I
like,
know
a
that-
couple times. Like
I took it
was-
off as we were talking to add the cap.
It's just
Thanos
right from
moment.
that moment, no more secret identities. It's a thing of the past for these superheroes, most of which in the comics all have secret identities. The only one that's still, even for Peter, like most people don't know who Spider-Man is, but the people close to him do.
Yeah.
And that's different for a lot of these storylines, that they're putting it all out there right from the start.
Well, it also, and that was probably a smart idea because you don't constantly have to write subplots for the people that they're going to spend a lot of time with on screen.
Right.
Having to care whether they know about it. It doesn't even have to be the central subject of the scene happening.
Yeah, yeah.
But the more you have to play, keep up the secret, keep up the secret, keep up the secret.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes burdensome.
There's some funny back and forth that could be had, but it's
Sure,
one of those
but
jokes.
it's
that
gonna
if it goes
die
on,
very quickly.
Yeah, if it goes on too long, then it becomes cumbersome, and just fix it. So yeah, I'm glad they did it that way.
And when you're going to have a slate of 28 characters who all have secret identities,
Yeah.
that might work for the first one for a bit. But
It's such a ballsy move for Tony Stark in a press conference. Like,
Yeah.
It works so well.
Yeah, for his personality that they established.
especially to end the movie.
Yes.
And there's a couple more that I think I was waiting to see if people mentioned. That I'm surprised one is not on your mentionables, and that is when Bucky is unmasked in Winter Soldier, and Cap actually sees him, and kind of says Bucky, and it just fucks with him.
Yeah.
You know, like that moment it is like, you know, you can see like Cap's heart breaking, but also like just the utter confusion on both of them at that moment was really, really good. There was another one I had in my head, and it was just a funny moment for me, and it goes back again to I'm sad Justin Hammer did not make my villains list.
He was number 5 for me if I could have had 5.
Honestly, Sam Rockwell, I can't get
Yeah.
enough of that guy. But it's the moment when War Machine says to Iron Man, like, "Oh, stand aside! I'm gonna bust his bunker with the ex-wife," and it just is like,
and
nothing.
then has that fart sound at the end.
Yeah.
Putters out.
Yeah. That to me was just like the quintessential explanation of everything Justin Hammer.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, these are the Cubanos, baby. You know, he goes on, calls it his Pieta, and it's like, nothing. Like, there's nothing behind any of this.
I'm kind of surprised no one put the Coulson moment from Avengers in there.
Yeah.
That one
I don't
doesn't-
even know what it does.
It's just. Oh, that's what it does.
That and something, and this is to me a moment that has happened but hasn't happened and damn well needs to happen in Endgame, and that is actual Avengers Assemble.
Saying the
Someone
phrase.
Saying
Saying
it,
it.
actually saying it, because you know, like they get you at the end of Ultron where like Cap is like Avengers, and then
Yeah, and then it cuts.
and it cuts to black, and it's like,
May-
so you're just gonna fuck with us, okay?
Maybe because again, I don't tell me if I'm wrong if there's something that is implying what will happen, but since I haven't seen the previews, however Tony gets off of Titan and will find his way back to work, presumably to Earth, if he finally, he doesn't have the phone anymore because he dropped it.
Bruce had it.
And Bruce had it and called Cap. But if there's a way that he can contact Cap and he just sends like one word to Cap,
Assemble.
and that's how they make contact again.
The captain was on like a slash for mine with the moments too. Whenever you see him in Infinity Wars, like the train station,
Oh.
you just see his like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was also like a slash in him emerging from the serum.
Yeah.
but then-
You're like,
but
I
then
have
the
to go with
serum-
the shirtless
The serum
scene.
thing, I remembered the serum thing. So
Going back to the Avengers Assemble thing for End of Age of Ultron, from what I heard, Joss refused to shoot it, as he said he didn't want to shoot it saying Assemble. He was afraid someone in the studio would want to use that cut. He didn't want to have anything on the record for them actually saying Avengers Assemble.
he never even.
Yeah.
So
physically
they
had him
never
say it.
finished that sentence ever.
Yeah, and you
Fair.
can see that in like Chris Evans' smirk at the end in that scene, because he knows like I'm not actually going to say it, so I just have to do. You know, like it's an iconic thing for the Avengers that Endgame just once, just give it to
Yeah.
us. You know, like it's supposed to be there.
If this is going to be the send off for Phase 1, like everybody up until like through Phase 1 and like current thing, this
and
is the way
like,
to do it.
If Chris Evans is done with Cap, is everybody's assuming,
Yeah.
since he kind of said he was done with Cap, you know, himself.
We're
He's
all
got
gonna
to say
cry.
it once. He has to say it once. They can't give this to Fury. They can't give it to somebody else. It has to be Cap, and it
Yeah.
has to happen just once, please.
The other moment I wanted to put, but was finally you get Led Zeppelin in Ragnarok. That whole, and they did the slow mo of him coming
Oh, yeah.
down with the lightning, and I was just
That moment too, honestly, just him realizing his full potential
yeah.
is outstanding. And I think like it was Brian that introduced me to a video game called Destiny that you guys don't know anything about, but in that moment, like there's characters in that game that you choose like a class to play with that have very similar actions to what he's doing at that time, where it was just like all of that all at once with him figuring it out, and that it was just fucking cool. And I swear to they must have taken some inspiration from that game, given how similar the things he does are to the game. You'd have to see what is in the game. It in the game they're called Stormcallers. It's pretty much what you see him do.
So someone's getting sued.
Doubtful. I think Thor
not
did
suc-
it first.
Maybe
either
not
way.
successfully, but someone's getting sued.
All right, so that's our moments. We'll go to top 3 fights / battles. Do you want this one?
My fights and battles made it to everybody's moment. Yeah. So the Iron Man Thanos fight in Infinity War was one of my favorite.
Good call.
Too, because it was just so stressful. Like I feel like my heart was racing. Like I was actually part of the fight. Like it was. And when we saw it the first time, somebody in the theater actually just screeched whenever Tony Stark got stabbed.
Yeah.
It was like
She was flipping out, like, oh my fucking god!
Yeah. But the screech, and then it was like silence. We're just like, everybody just was gasping.
And honestly, the impact you can feel when Tony actually draws the drop of blood, like the cool shit that the nanotech does in that fight, is just fun to watch.
Yeah.
From different places to protect yourself.
Repurposing it.
Repurposing it, pinning Thanos with part of it. It just forms into whatever he needs, into a giant battering ram. It's a lot of fun.
That fight was awesome. The bridge fight from Thor Ragnarok was fantastic. I loved all like the slow-mo, awesome, like just the cool visuals you got whenever the Valkyrie was what's her face? I can't remember her name.
Tessa Thompson?
Yeah.
The actress, yeah.
Yeah, when she was just walking like,
Oh yeah, she walks.
The Grandmaster's "It's My Birthday" thing's going off in the background.
And then the whole Hulk thing, whenever he just like
Splat. Face plants down. I love that shot, from like under the bridge where he's like, oh.
And it like the Hulk in that scene, even like just after it, Surtur's there, and they're like, "No, Hulk, don't!" He's just big monster. Like, I gotta go get that.
So confused. Poor Hulk.
Like, no.
So what I'm getting is our moments list should have been like 10 each because I feel like we just keep rolling with them.
Oh yeah. And then my number 3 was the Guardians 2 opening with Baby Groot dancing during the whole fight. I love.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
They fought as a team too. How that it was just their communication in between it. Somebody's got to watch Groot.
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Skin is the same thickness from the inside as on the outside.
That's what I told him.
Rocket stops
I'm
to kick that
sick
bug
of
out of his mouth.
Yeah. No, spit it out. Spit it out.
I need to watch that again. I forgot about that.
It's so great. And the music playing being completely out of context for what's going on, but it still is fun. Yeah.
So, sidebar, so glad he's back.
Yes.
And stuff like that will interweave. I mean, if he's already... never mind.
Yeah, we still haven't recorded that episode, so it's definitely a topic I want to cover. For
Yeah, we're going to cover that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
okay.
That's awesome. Good list.
I will go into my third, which also plays off of Guardians 2, and that is Yondu and Rocket in the control center just killing everything on the ship from the cameras.
With my favorite song from that movie. Freaking love that.
It is so great. Like the fun that Rocket looks like he's having. He's just screaming like and he's just euphoric and killing all this stuff.
It's one of my favorite shots in that movie, in that sequence, when the arrow takes out the lights.
Yes, it's black.
Pitch black and just
you
goes
just
through
see
everybody.
the streak.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Such a good choice.
Yeah, just visually, the song, the moment, the characters and their reaction to it, and just it's fucking cool. They're just looking at cameras and it's so great.
Struts out with the fin for the first time.
Yeah.
It's great.
And they all realize they're screwed. That's the other part of it too. They all like they see he has the fin and they're like, "Uh-oh." It's wonderful. For me, number 2 I have is the elevator fight from Winter Soldier.
Good call.
That whole sequence where Cap immediately realizes what's happening, and he just kind of like, "Well, if anybody wants to get out, you can do it now." And it's in a confined space with all those guys. It's an awesome fight scene to watch every time.
Because he's always been able to pull off the perfect balance of...
I'm sorry, I thought she was laughing at me saying something about the confined space with all those guys. It sounded like she was... Oh, I heard her chuckling when I said that, and I figured it was happening that way.
But now I'm thinking about that in the serum. Because that's one thing I loved about, again, his like portrayal of that character is he's kind of cocky in that moment, but he also knows he's in danger. So it's a good balance of, I'm self-aware enough. I know I'm strong. I know I can take a hit. I know I'm quick. I know these things. So I'm confident, coming off as a little bit of arrogance, but also like 8 against 1. Are you guys sure? Are you really?
Do you have enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... And just like the way they set it up. You know, like Rumlow gets on and like tries to casually talk to him.
Yep.
And then they just go to another floor and a couple more guys and another floor and a couple more guys. It sets up so well, and then it sets up into, you know, him jumping out of that window from however many stories up they are at that point and just landing on his shield.
Oh.
And you actually feel that impact when he hits the ground. And you're
Yeah.
Well,
like,
I just remember being like, ow.
yeah, like it looks like they actually dropped somebody from a significant
does.
height onto
Yeah.
something that they knew they could survive because the impact looked real.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention just the choreography in that elevator. Like, you were able to tell exactly what's happening in that confined space. It's shot really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were able to have a camera
for being
in
so
close
Yeah.
to everything. It wasn't just, we're showing this like from the outside of the building so you can get every shot they needed was right where it needed to be without shaky cam.
Yep.
Without, you never missed,
Which
like,
they
that was too
use
quick. What is happening?
Earlier in the movie is like the whole Lemurian star fight is all shaky cam crap. And that irritates me, especially when you see better stuff. Because even in that sequence, when he fights Beltrock, it's a wide shot, and it's very extended, long take of them going back and forth, which is fight scenes I love. Mm-hmm. When he's taking people out one by one, it's all shaky cam and up close, and that stuff irritates me. But the elevator fight is a redeeming part of that movie, where they shoot it very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just it's such a difficult thing for them to shoot, and I think that's a lot of the appreciation you have to have for it.
Oh yeah.
And very easily they could have shot that scene as, they all get in the elevator. He asks them, "Does anybody want to get off?" And then they go to a wide pan, and you just see, and everybody falls, and Cap's just like, "Yep, I'm still here."
Yeah.
Or the elevator's just open on another floor, and everyone's on the ground.
Down.
They don't
cut
show
to
it
that.
to
That would have been
you.
the lazy
You
way
just-
to do it, yeah.
You get to the same end part, but lazily. Yeah. And so I'll move on to my final is Thor versus Hulk on Sakaar. The contest of champions. That fight, there's so much about that fight that I just absolutely love. I mean, yeah, we got teased in the trailer with him just like, he's a friend from work and everything. There's comedy in it. And then there's the point at which he realizes that it's going to be a fight. And he kind of has to, like, change tone. Like, no banner, only Hulk. And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But to me, the best part of that entire fight, there's cool stuff with Thor and the electricity and all that, but it's when Thor tries to give him a lullaby.
Yeah.
And he's just like, the sun's getting real low. And he gives him that face.
Smile.
And then Thor disappears from the screen and gets smashed all over. Loki pops up.
Loki gets his
That's how it feels.
He goes crazy.
Such a big fan of the sport.
And then at the very end of it, you get
good.
Hulk flying up into the air. Another day, another Doug. And it's just...
the Doug. New Doug.
Yeah. So long, new Doug.
New Doug.
It just every part of that whole scene and fight is great. Like when they actually fight, it's fucking cool too. Because like I think they showed like a moment when the Grand Master realizes that it's actually a fight.
Yeah.
When it like Thor hits him with whatever hammer it is, and Hulk goes flying across the arena, and he's like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all of it's a ton of fun.
That's your three?
That's my three.
Sarah, you're up.
I also had the elevator fight because I love that fight. Just it would be an extended one, but just the Battle of New York in Avengers, just because you get to see everybody. You break apart where sometimes they're on the bridge and like Iron Man's up in the air, and just there's little quips where he's like, "I'm bringing the party to you." And Black Widow looks up. She's like, "How is that a party?" Or just the part where she said she needs a boost and like Cap boosts her up on the shield, and then Hawkeye is up at the
Clench up Legolas.
yes, clench up Legolas. Like there's that, but also when he shoots the arrow and Loki catches it and looks at it, and first you're like, oh, but then it does explode.
Yeah,
so there's
Loki
just
thinks he won.
yeah,
first.
he's like,
And
oh
then,
yes, I got it. So
He looks back like, shit.
Barton, you son of a bitch. I got you.
yeah.
the guy with the arrows is going to get me, really.
Yeah. So I just love how I think it's a good balance of action and comedy. And it's kind of the first time you get to see all of them come together. Then you see it in, Ultron and Broken Apart and other things, but it's your first time seeing everybody come together.
One of the things in that you're talking about, where you see people coming together and fighting, and
you're going to talk about the moment I was just going to talk about, aren't you?
When Iron Man flies onto the ground and hits the shield with his.
I was going to say, if anyone has played Ultimate
Yep.
Alliance, that is an exact moment from the game.
Exactly. It's in the video game. He pops onto the ground, he shoots the shield, and it's just like this. And there's no purpose to it whatsoever.
It's
because
not tactically sound.
No, because Tony could just do it on his own. But firing it off the shield is just fucking cool. So it like that and. Hulk's reaction to being told to smash, where he's just like in Hulk, and he thinks about it for a second, like nothing I say here is going to matter. Just smash. Yeah, he just gives a grunt, like a smile, and then he just takes off and just starts breaking shit.
Also, is that I'm trying to remember? Is that the scene? Is that the movie where Cap says, "If you get killed, walk it off"?
No.
That's Age of Ultron.
That's Age of Ultron. Okay, thank you. Because I was trying to remember. I'm like, which battle is that?
There's a lot of battles.
There's
a lot of battles. And then my top one is I love the battle between Bucky and Steve on the highway fight when they first go, and it ends with him flipping off the mask and you seeing who it actually is. I love the choreography of that whole thing.
Just seeing the behind the scenes stuff of Sebastian Stan training with that knife and just flipping it around all the time to get used to that fight. So when they do that scene and choreograph it, that he can flip it up in the middle of the fight, catch it, and keep going.
Yeah.
See, I need to watch all these behind.
There's a point where he drops it to himself.
Are all the behind the scenes the
It's
same on our discs as they are on the?
Drops it to the other hand.
Should be.
Okay, I have to. Like I
It's
said,
all
I
the
have to
same
look
movies.
at that.
They're just coming. You guys get them in the set.
I'm used to like Lord of the Rings. If you do the extended versus the non-extended, the behind the scenes stuff is different.
The extras packaged.
The extras are different. So that's why I wasn't sure because we have all the
I don't
phase
think
sets.
they went above and beyond with all that stuff.
I don't think they did. Like, and at
They
least
should.
There was an extra disc in each of them that was supposed to be like a couple more extras and like teases for the next phase.
So you guys might have more stuff than we do.
Yeah,
things like that on a separate one. But I remember us watching it. It's not like groundbreaking or anything.
They're not long. They're usually pretty quick, like 15-minute feature-ette type things.
Yeah,
they're not
like
big.
That.
But
they're not Lord of the Rings special behind the scenes stuff.
No, which I would love.
I don't know. So those are mine.
The three. One of mine is also the whole New York City fight scene from the first Avengers, for reasons mentioned. Just panning some of the shots that, even though there's obviously cuts and whatnot, some of the shots, the way they follow the characters, the camera is almost one fluid flow.
In the shot that Mike was talking about with the Iron Man coming down on the sheet, it starts with Iron Man flying through, goes to him and Cap, goes up to Hawkeye, follows an arrow, and then you end up with Thor and Hulk on the big worm
on top
thing.
of one of the things that
and it follows them
finally
through.
crashes. Yeah, some of those just it flows just the whole time. It's one fluid shot. It's great. And again, maybe this is a recency problem, but I forgot how cool the Iron Legion fight in Iron Man 3 is.
Oh, after the party. Is that
no?
Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3.
Climax,
Sorry.
Yeah, that's not the Iron Legion. The Iron Legion's in Age of Ultron.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. All the suits fighting autonomously against all the extremists, infected people in Iron Man 3. The whole setting for that.
The action scenes
really
in that movie are not the problem with that movie, in my opinion.
not at all.
I think all the action stuff is fantastic. The attack on the house, all that stuff.
Yeah,
fucking love it.
And that's the thing. Going back to it after a few years, all the stuff that I thought bothered me more didn't really bother me anymore.
And that's
I found that I liked the villain a lot more. I don't know. I just stepped away from it for a long time, and
I know Eric absolutely hates that twist of that movie, so I'm wondering if he watches it anytime soon, if it would come back around for him or not.
Yeah, and again, maybe like trying to digest it again. Now that you know about it so much, just taking it for what the story is and watching the acting, like Guy Pearce is actually really freaking good in that.
Yeah.
And I do, as much as people, even myself, have certain views of Gwyneth Paltrow personally. She's actually really badass in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's really cool. So yeah, just the whole climax scene. I think the setting helped a lot. All the big crane rigging and the ship, the setting of it really helped. I liked how much War Machine was involved in it as well. Don Cheadle crushes a lot of that movie. He does really well.
I mean, the part of that scene that still sticks out to me is when him and Rhodey are not in the suits yet, and they're kind of waiting for them to arrive.
Yeah,
and I think Rhodey says something to him like, "Oh, what do you got?" And he's like, takes a peek, and he's like, "So what'd you see?"
Nothing.
Nothing.
Too quick.
Too fast.
Too fast.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, the way he was saying, he's like, "You have like 15 clips. Give me one. They're not. It's not going to fit. Come on. Yes, they will. I've seen them." But then he says the same thing, like with the. He says, "Give me a suit," and he's like, "They're just coded to me. They're not universal."
Oh yeah. So he has to go get the president out of the Iron Patriot suit to get back in his own. Yeah, it all works really well.
Even like when they're they have the guns and like Tony's shooting, hits a bulb. And he's like, "I was aiming for the bulb. You can't hit a bulb from that."
Yeah.
And then he just pops one.
Comes back down, just looks right at him.
He's such a badass.
Yeah. But I'd say probably Iron Man 3 might be Rhodey's best movie. Like he obviously how things play out for him in Civil War might make it seem that way, but I think he has the most to do.
I still really like him in 2.
True.
I think the whole the two of them coming to a head at the party is such a good moment for that movie.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I just said earlier that I haven't watched 2 in a long time, so maybe if I
2, I feel like
do that
just
again.
3 is underrated. I think 2 gets shit on a lot too, but I think
Yes.
2 is a really, really solid movie.
Agreed.
Did Don Cheadle have as much action in 2 as he does in 3? I feel like
that's what I can't remember.
That's the thing is Don Cheadle does a lot more than I remember him doing, just even physically.
Yeah.
He's in the suit more in 2.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
Like
They have
I
a lot
remember.
more there's more in the suit battles in 2 for both of them.
Yeah, and that's
in
what I
the
think I dug
climax.
about him in 3 is
He does a lot
as-
more of like hand to hand out of the suit.
Yeah.
He's not the tech genius. He's not Justin Hammer. He's not the military people trying to upgrade suits with tech and weapons. He's the soldier.
Yeah.
He's the one with the training. He gets to be really cool in that movie.
Yeah.
Like as Rhodes,
Yeah.
as Rhodey. And my last one of my 3 is the Civil War airport fight.
Oh, that was one of mine.
That's a good one.
It almost
It's hard not to pick that one.
I know. And so it's like some of them I was thinking like I almost went much smaller scale like a lot of them that you guys picked. Like I was gonna pick the Iron Man Bucky Cap fight.
I have
at
that.
the
That's
end
on
of
my
that.
list too. Yeah.
So
That
I
was number 4.
yeah, I was gonna pick that, but like I ended up going like much grander scale in the ones that I picked. But just the airport fight is just there's so much going on for it not to be cool.
Man, did you guys ever see that really old movie, The Empire Strikes
Jesus,
Back?
Tony, how old is this kid?
Yeah.
No, I didn't carbon date him. He's on the young side.
I mean, even just Giant Man, seeing Giant Man on screen in that fight was such a big fucking moment.
I'm the boss.
And his reaction to it. Whoa.
I will say, for all my issues with the Ant-Man movies, Paul Rudd is perfect in Civil War.
Oh yes.
He's great in that.
So I actually wrote down 6 of them, figuring like I'd have extra to play with. 4 of my 6 have been taken out. Well, of course, I guess maybe 5 because Josh just mentioned Cap, Bucky, Iron Man at the end of Civil War. There's just some because that fight is so emotional.
Yes.
That part of the movie.
It's very unique among any other that occurs in most of the movies.
And that has another one of my favorite like comic book shots is when he stops the blast with the shield and they pause on it for like a solid 5 seconds. That's a comic book cover shot. It's fucking awesome to see that on screen. And the last one for me, the opening of Doctor Strange, where the Ancient One is taking on Caecilius for the first time, and they go and everything starts shifting.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
And she just looks like such a badass, and you don't even know anything about her, but she's flipping people around. She's got those hand lifts and shit. It's fucking cool. It sets the stage for that movie. I love it.
Oh, yeah, I should
I
have
agree.
picked the fight that he has when the acolytes like break into the sanctum.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
Ah, like where he ends up with the cape in the end.
Yeah.
The fight with Dormammu.
When you think of like Inception, whenever they have like the
Yes.
Joseph Gordon, what's his face?
Uh huh.
one too. JGO.
Yeah, and that hallway scene.
When are they going to get him in these movies?
I don't know.
That's
He's still slated to be Robin.
Yeah,
that's
he's
a
still.
phase, that's a phase 4 issue.
You can't cross that over.
Oh my god, I love him. That would be so good.
I
Yeah.
can't
Give him a
honestly
serum.
think of somebody right now that isn't cast that he could play. He would have to bulk up
Yeah.
That's the serum. There you go.
and
It's like, oh, he can bulk.
Well, I mean, it can be done. I just can't
it
think
depends
of
on what kind of character. Like, and I always thought, what's that?
Look at James McAvoy.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It can be done, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
like-
just a matter. I'm trying to think of somebody he could play,
Well-
and I'm thinking it's going to have to be somebody. Personally, my choice is wait a while and let him be Archangel, but that's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the X-Men probably have a huge cast of characters that there's got to be somebody in
Somewhere
there.
he
Yeah,
can
now
fit.
that we have that cast open,
Yeah.
even Reed.
Or what about like Johnny Storm? I could see Johnny Storm. I think he's fun enough to play a fun character like that.
Have you
I
seen
don't
his
know.
lip sync
I don't
pattern?
know if he's. I don't know. That would be tough. I feel like he fits better into Reed than he does into Johnny.
I just think Reed has to be older. That's why I think he'd be better as the younger character.
See, when you look at a
True.
character like even Ant-Man, there was, and I get it, it's fine, but there's no reason that you need the Paul Rudd is ripped, he's fixing a bruise, shirtless scene in that movie. A character like that does not need to depend on his physique.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of people on the slate that someone that you might say like, well, they're not really known for that part of their acting.
He's built.
Oh yeah. Right. So like, yeah, you don't need to put him in a character in which he's going to need a year to work out. There's plenty of people you can take on.
I mean that's part of the reason why I see Archangel is being good for him because he plays dark well too.
Cyclops? No, an older Cyclops.
Nah,
I would think Cyclops would have to be older. I think you need that leadership role of someone with age.
Yeah, I mean he's in his late 30s.
Oh,
he
all right.
looks younger, but he's
He does.
not.
Yeah, that's what's fooling me is I think he's older than he actually is, and it's yeah.
Yeah, I would like it for me. The thing for him will be, does he want it? Has he expressed an interest? I don't even.
Which
know,
I don't think he
but-
gives a shit for.
Well,
So
I heard again. We talked about like potential castings in the past. I believe he was either first offered or was definitely highly considered for Star-Lord, and he turned it down or walked away, whatever. Took his name out of the running because, and I feel bad for this, because he wanted to do Sin City 2. Those came out the same year. Which, on the one hand, if you're looking like I could be in a Frank Miller movie, Robert Rodriguez, the look like Sin City 1 is one of my favorite movies of all time. It looks so great. Just since the sequel suffered from a lot of different things. And so to have made that choice,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, Chris Pratt, great, wonderful as Peter Quill.
Yeah, I'm not regretting.
Not sad
that.
about that at all, but
No.
yeah, apparently he was potentially eyed in the past. But
We'll see what happens.
So where did we leap off of?
I think we got through the ones I had, so that's
Okay.
it for fights and battles. So we'll go to top 3 post-credit scenes. Leslie, you still going first? You want? All right.
I have Spider-Man Homecoming, the last scene when he has Captain America on the vacation thing.
The video.
Yeah.
The skull video again. Oh,
I forgot about that one. To be fair,
that's something else I wanted to ask about. So, is on the Homecoming DVD, is there any extra school videos that they shot that they put on extras?
I don't
feel like
remember
there
any.
might have been, but I haven't watched a lot of those special features to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that came, like there's a solid 2.5 hours or so of extra features on the digital version. I don't recall any.
Yeah,
But
I don't know
it's
if
been
they've-
a while since I actually.
If there's any
watched
under
it.
like deleted scenes or
Yeah,
something
because
like that, I
if
don't
they
know.
didn't, that's a lost opportunity.
These aren't like I didn't look anything back up. Like I didn't go back there because I was trying to remember post-credit scenes, and I'm like, all right, so my favorite ones will be the ones I actually remember. But yeah, so the Captain America one, I liked I loved Black Panther. When they go to the whatever United Nations thing or whatever, and they were saying like we're gonna share our technology.
Oh yeah.
I liked that too because it just felt they had the whole like we're gonna we should be building bridges and not barriers because it was so poignant for the time too. It was just like yes, yeah. So I love that one, and I love when we see Thor's hammer, like because I was so excited about seeing Thor for the first time. So that end credit scene, whenever that was when Coulson says we found it. Sorry.
That was one of mine.
I love that because it was so you're like that's what they found, and then you're like.
And it ends with like that crack of lightning with the hammer and the shot. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, and then I had to like steal another one. The diner scene scene where they're all just sitting there eating? Or was it?
Shawarma.
Yeah.
That's my number
That's
one.
my number one.
I love that one too. That was like, I didn't want to not put that on my list.
And the thing that's so great is nobody says a word.
I know.
It's not involved. It's not that long. It's just so
Little known in that
perfect.
scene, you do not see Chris Evans' face.
He has the facial
Oh, yeah.
hair.
He was covering his mouth because he had a mustache for another role at the time. But yeah, when they all did, like, there's a pause in there too where they just kind of look around at each other while they're eating, like, yep, all this just happened, and now we're just here eating shawarma.
Yeah.
And it's a payoff from a joke earlier, like, oh, you know, like, oh, you guys want to get some shawarma? Oh, yeah. And then they're just eating. It's just fucking great.
So those are my three.
All right, Mike.
Okay. Well, that was my number one, so I'll just go backwards. I'll go to my number two, which was the reveal of Cosmo the Space Dog and Howard the Duck in Guardians of the Galaxy.
His name is Cosmo, by the way, if everyone remembers.
Which, if you don't remember, it's like the dog licking the collector, and Howard kind of looks at him and goes, gross. Like, it's great. Especially for people that remember Howard the Duck as a movie when they were a kid. It's so ridiculous. It's ducked up. You can do whatever you want with that.
Yeah,
But
that was the first movie based on a Marvel property ever made.
Think about that, kids.
Yeah.
The first movie based on a Marvel property.
By George Lucas.
I've never
Howard
seen
the
Howard.
Duck.
I've never seen Howard the Duck.
You should.
You're not. We can try. do you remember the Captain America, the 1990?
Oh yes.
I don't know which I would say is better.
Oh, come on. It's better than that.
It at least has Leah Thompson and Tim Robbins. I don't know. That's
And who voices Howard?
I actually don't know. I didn't say I was a super fan. I'm aware of it.
As far as I remember, it's Michael J. Fox.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Huh. It's been probably 20 years.
That
since I
alone
have
makes it better than that Captain America.
actually
Okay.
watched Howard the Duck.
Moving on to my third one is from the first Iron Man. When we first get introduced to the Avengers Initiative and Fury. And it's then, like, that movie, you realize, like, when I went into that movie, nobody at that time really knew what they were doing or what they may have had in mind. And this one is kind of a unique post-credit scene in that nobody knew to stay for it. This was, the first one. Nobody knew that there was going to be a post-credit scene, so most people didn't see this until the DVD came out. Because nobody stays for credits in movies before these Marvel movies. Nobody stayed. You got the hell out of there. So most people never saw this on the original run. And then you see it on the DVD when you're just like, you finish watching a movie, you let it play, you're doing whatever, and then all of a sudden it pops into another scene, and you're like, oh, and you see what's really happening.
Yeah, I read on the internet, like, months after Iron Man was in theaters that had happened. And then I, rented it.
To see the
Got it
scene.
either from Netflix, because I was still getting discs in the mail at the time,
Yeah?
or something, and I was like, oh, I want to rewatch Iron Man, but specifically, I want to see what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was...
Didn't know it was a thing yet.
Right, exactly. And then when you find out that it's that thing, that it's Nick Fury, and not just any Nick Fury, it's the ultimate Nick Fury, it's the Sam Jackson Nick Fury, and then they're telling you about the Avengers Initiative. And it's like, wait, are they actually going to do that? Holy shit, And I guess that, leads into tying to when it shows up again in The Incredible Hulk for another post-credit scene with Fury, and you're like, they are going to do it. That tied together is just a awesome revelation kind of moment as to what their plans were. So I'll pitch it on to Sarah.
I had shawarma as my first one too. I also had when Thanos says, I think he says, "Fine, I'll do it myself," and he gets the gauntlet. And it's for someone who knows. I knew nothing about Thanos or the comics or anything that was happening, but you'd had enough little pieces of him to finally. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy. Like, it had me really intrigued. I was intrigued before, but for some reason, that's the one that really got me to be like, well, what's this thing he's getting? And like, what's going to happen? And I don't know. And then I really like when Cap he has the punching bag, and Nick comes and he's giving him the mission, and he just like completely busts the one open and it flies. Then he goes and like drags the other one back up. I just love that whole scene.
No particular order. I also had the Spider-Man with Captain America and Patience on mine. I don't know why this one stuck with me a lot. Well, first of all, and not that it's bad that anyone else did. I disqualified any that used snippets from upcoming movies as their post-credits tags.
Okay.
But the ending on Doctor Strange really stuck with me. I thought it was short but very effective. Chiwetel Ejiofor does 7 different things with his face in the span of saying one sentence, and he is such a versatile, expressive actor. I don't want to say dare necessarily, but like kind of challenge. Like, go back and watch that end credit scene. Just in the end, when he just says, "Too many sorcerers," 3 words, his eyes change 4 times, and that's one of the few. That is a sequel I'm really looking forward to. I really, really, specifically for him. Mm-hmm. Like, that whole world is interesting. I want to see what that guy does and what that character does.
Yeah.
And then my last is, as mentioned earlier in another context, but the first Avengers mid-credits where you first get the Thanos reveal and the courting death part. Not only for what it set up, but much like you get the first, Avengers circle shot in that movie. That was, I think, one of the more iconic moments that sticks with people through the rest of the fabric.
Yeah, just the head turn and smile.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
I had 2 of my 3 taken until you just said that last one. That was my number 3. So all of mine are gone. I had the Thor's hammer from the end of Iron Man 2, the Nick Fury moment from Iron Man, and Thanos.
We offered to let you go first.
No, it's fine. There's only 21 movies, so there's not a lot of scenes to choose from. So between, 5 of us, most of them are going to go anyway.
Also, just the last Captain Marvel goose. You finally get...
You got to throw it up to Goose puking.
Yes, it's just so... Anybody who has a cat, you're like, yep. And that's the thing. Anybody who has a cat, as soon as that cat just starts to make like the motion with its body, you're like, oh, I know what's happening.
Sucking the head back up. Like, oh gosh. Oh, sorry. I don't know that. Oh,
Alexa does not know what we're talking about.
Alexa has a cameo in this week's episode.
All right, so next up we have quotes. 3 quotes. Still want to go first?
I'll just.
All right,
or do
back
you
to
want
Josh.
2 for 1? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go first then.
I have so many.
Again, recency problem. I forgot how much of a dick Tony was to that little kid in Iron Man 3. Now, granted, this is the same little kid whose guts I hate in Jurassic World.
Yes. Yes.
And,
fuck those kids.
And in this particular one, I find myself disliking him in this movie less than I used to. And from what I glanced at some point, I don't know if the trailers are revealing this, but I swear I've seen him on the credit cast list for Endgame. And I don't know why, but hey, whatever. We'll wait a couple more weeks and find out. But the poor kid, when he talks about, like, well, my mom's out or something, and my dad went out for scratchers, and I guess he won because that was 6 years ago. And Tony says, which happens? Dad's leaves. No need to be a pussy about it.
I was surprised they said pussy in a PG-13 movie like that.
Yeah,
that kids are going to see.
Disney.
Yeah.
Disney owned the thing by that
Shane
point.
Black let that one slide.
Yeah. Well, Shane Black, I think, was one of the script writers.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, that very much felt like a Shane Black script as well. Not just a directed. It felt like writing, too. But, yeah, I just forgot about that. He's just, don't be a pussy about it. Like, oh, all right.
And he just goes on to the next thing. He doesn't give a fuck what the kid thinks.
He doesn't care to get
wants
to know
his tuna
the kid
sandwich.
at all. Like, that's what's so harsh about it. Like, he's nice enough, but kind of uses the kid to learn what he needs to, uses them to get some stuff done. He's like, all right, peace out. There's really no lasting relationship there. It's really
Gives him a bunch of stuff at the end.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
appreciative.
Then my other one that comes from Tony in the first Avengers, after the first scuffle with his coworkers, and he comes onto the bridge in the helicarrier and says, "No hard feelings, Point Break. You had a hell of a swing."
Yeah.
Even though he had made some of the, I think he made the Reindeer Games comment to Loki before that.
Yes.
But for me, there's something about the Point Break moment, and because there's that nice callback in Ragnarok.
The callback in Ragnarok
Yes.
is
It's
a
wonderful.
huge payoff.
It's wonderful. But something about the use of it in that moment, for me, really solidified the pop culture reference to talk to people and talk about people to themselves.
Yeah.
It to me
Thing for him.
That moment, that quote is better, but I still find the Reindeer Games moment better simply because it comes after the fact that you realize that Tony has just played his own intro music to arriving on a real battle.
Yeah.
This is true.
Like he hacks their system
Is that Tony
just to
Stark's
play his own
music?
intro music.
Something from binge mode.
But the Point Break reference is better. I love Point Break, so it's just calling him Point Break and
because even in Infinity War, when they first arrive, and he said, "You know what? It's time to leave, Squidward."
Yeah.
Says that to Ma. Yeah. And then my third one is Korg.
Just all Korg.
Everything
Everything Korg says.
Just-
That's what I wrote down. Korg.
yeah,
I feel like there's a character from one of the movies I could do that too, and maybe I'll save it when we get there.
That's all you're getting.
I have a really fantastic video of Josh sitting on the floor as Thor Ragnarok. He's doing something for Odyssey, and he looks like a child on Christmas morning when you first see
When
Korg,
Thor first walks in,
and you first sees him.
down here. I'm me. Yes, the pile of rocks talking. I'm a being. Yeah, me.
But he's saying all of the words, and I'm just panning from the TV to Josh, to the TV to Josh, and then he looks over and goes, "Are you filming this?" But he's doing the whole thing.
You posted it on his birthday, right?
I
I
did.
think I saw that on
Because
social
I have
media.
a loving spouse.
You married me. I have so many quotes. I don't know. I think the one that you and I at least say the most is genius or billionaire genius playboy philanthropist. That comes out a lot. For just lots of normal. I took one, I guess. Let's see, I had Point Break on there. You took mine. One that I had forgotten about was Black Widow in Winter Soldier, where she says, "I'm sorry, did I step on your moment?" When she reveals herself. It's just the way that she says it, and everyone's just staring at her like, what? And just he's a friend from work. Just so good.
That was the one that was in the trailer, and that had me dying in the trailer, and I still found it funny when I saw the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. It still worked.
No. I have a bunch.
If you have
but
some honorable mentions, I feel like there's a shit ton that, I'm barely crossing anything off my list, which means there's a shit ton to go around. So.
Well, Bradley actually said the one earlier where if you try to escape or play any sort of games, I will tase you and watch Super Nanny while you drool into the carpet.
That's a great line from Coulson.
Such a good one. Doth Mother Know You Weareth Her Drapes is another favorite of mine. It's not nice, it's not polite, but Loki's whole spiel that he ends with "you mewling Quim." It's vulgar, but it's such a good
speech.
It's such a good
good.
speech.
It's the delivery too.
Oh,
yes.
It's not even just what he says.
Yes.
It's all in that delivery of anger. I guess is the best way I can describe what he does there.
Yeah, that he's so, I don't know, just because he wants to torture, just because he wants to torture her. So it's almost like the most villainous thing he says or does because it is completely unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. It is designed to hurt her.
Yes, but I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay.
Could always come back around if we don't hit the ones you have in there.
So I'm going to have to actually read 3 of mine. I'm going to mention the honorable mention first, that I don't actually. It may make the list that I actually had it to read. But it's more of a conversation, is why I think it falls as like not necessarily a quote. But it ends with Yondu telling Rocket, "I know who you are because you are me." That whole conversation that happens leading to that would fall into it. But my actual number 3, I will read. The city is flying, and we're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
That was one of mine.
But I'm going to go back out there because it's my job. And I can't do my job and babysit. Doesn't matter what you did or what you were. If you go out there, you fight, and you fight to kill. Staying here, you're good. I'll send your brother to come find you. But if you step out that door, you're an Avenger. It's Hawkeye being Hawkeye. It's almost like they reveal him as the family man in that movie, and it's almost like he's playing dad to Scarlet Witch at that moment.
Oh,
like,
definitely. Yeah.
you just listen. This is how it is. Do it or don't. I don't care, but I got to go do my job. And
I also love that hesitancy that he has, that moment where he repeats, "The city is flying." Okay, it's flying.
yeah.
Perfect delivery.
My second quote that I have here, I also have to pull up something different to read it, but it's just so I get the words right. It's from Gamora. She says, "I have spent most of my life surrounded by my enemies. I will be grateful to die among my friends." Just extremely well said for the moment that it comes. It comes right before the "We Are Groot" moment. It's a great moment in that film, all in of itself, in one quote. It kind of like defines the film in one quote.
And then I love how Rocket bookends it by being the last one to join them by standing up, and he says, "All right, now I'm standing. You happy?
Yeah.
Couple of jackasses."
Yeah, exactly. And my last quote I read earlier when we were having our Jeopardy moments, and it's the quote from Abraham Erskine about the strong man. I can read it again. And the quote is, "Because the strong man, who has known power all his life, may lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion." I feel like that is maybe one of the better quotes, not just from the MCU, but from any movie in a long time. Because it's true. And no matter which way you take it from, it's real on every level.
Can I add one to my list going off of that? Because I feel bad that I didn't think of it. I love that same conversation, or maybe it's earlier between the two of them, but he says...
The schnapps.
What's that?
The schnapps.
Partially. I do love that. It's like, no, I'm not having a procedure.
Yeah. I drink it now.
I'm just doing the procedure. That when he initially meets Steve and he says, "So you want to kill Nazis?" "I don't want to kill anybody, sir. I just don't like bullies.
Yeah.
No matter where they're from." That's Steve Rogers in a nutshell.
Yep.
I think another great quote on that is like right after Steve jumps on the grenade and Tommy Lee Jones just looks at him, still skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, he's got everything you could possibly fucking want out of a human being, but he's still small.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Is that it?
that's the ones I have.
Okay. Leslie.
I am Iron Man. That was one of my favorite quotes. Because, yeah, we talked about it earlier, so.
It's ballsy.
Yeah, I just loved it. And then my other two were stupid. Aside from, I had the Playboy, or Genius Play, Billionaire Playboy for this online. And I have Baskin Robbins always fun.
Oh, that was so funny,
So stupid. It's so funny.
They say it like 3 or 4 times in that movie too. I just love Michael Pena's delivery too. Yeah. Baskin Robbins always finds out.
Yeah, it goes from like the manager of Baskin Robbins. He's like, "Well, Baskin Robbins always finds out," and then like he's walking back with the shake and everything. He's like, "Yeah, I got fired." Oh, they find out, and then it goes to T.I. first, he's like, "Oh, Baskin Robbins always finds out."
Yeah.
And then I can't remember. Like Pena delivers it again later. It's just like they just keep saying it.
Like,
It's just like
it's
what
common
the
knowledge,
fuck?
man.
And then, well, since I had other ones, I love everything Drax says. I just think it's so funny because it's so little, but it's over your head.
Yeah.
It's like, go over
In my head.
It's a metaphor. It goes over his head. Yeah.
Catch it.
And also, whenever he says Thor looks like a pirate, and then he
Yeah.
That is not a. That is a man. You're a dude.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
I
I've been
just-
getting fat. Like it's not even a quote that Drax gives. It's just the motion. He's like, like he does that to him, and it's like, oh god.
I just thought of one that you and I say to each other all the time.
Which is
His first name is Agent.
yes.
Yeah.
All right,
left?
so the character for me that I feel like he's so deadly serious in the movie, but half the shit he says is funny, is Tommy Lee Jones from First Avenger. The whole like end of that when like Cap's ready to board the ship, Peggy gets him a kiss. He looks really dumbfounded and confused.
Oh yeah.
Looks at Tommy Lee Jones. He goes, "I ain't kissing you." We Are Groot. Obviously, that's a big moment, and that I feel like people say that all the time. The Tony Stark talking to Loki, and because if we can't protect the Earth, you could be damn well sure we'll revenge it. That's good. The Grand Master about talking about his age, and then ending with "But on
wondered-
Sakaar,
And he just lets
nothing."
Yeah. Just nothing.
And the one of the parts from the first Thor that had me in stitches was when the Warriors 3 are walking up to get Thor, and the guys watching them are like, "Call it in. We got Xena, Robin Hood, Jackie Chan."
I forgot about that.
And that part kills me.
Like that reminds me, like that first Thor, like he walks into the pet store.
Yeah.
Just,
Need a horse?
"I need a horse."
Or something big, or something large enough to ride.
Yeah, there's something large enough to ride. Yeah, like what the fuck?
I'm sure I can think of more, but that's all I had.
Oh, because I know. I just completely blanked on her name.
I'm surprised nobody, and I maybe
Wait.
if I put like a long list together, I'm surprised no one had a Mary Poppins, y'all.
Oh,
Yeah.
To be honest, it didn't even occur to me.
cool?
It just, I should have.
Oh,
I
yeah,
totally
she's
forgot about that one. I think that's the difference of like trying to pull these from memory as opposed to like trying to catch up on 21 movies and watch
Exactly.
them
Yeah.
all
Exactly.
before we do this.
Or like even from Guardians again, like the preview into the moment in Infinity War where they're all disgusted by Groot's language. Like welcome to the frickin' Guardians of the Galaxy. Only he didn't say frickin'. It's baby Groot at the
Yeah.
time, so it's like
Or Rocket being so mad that he starts kicking grass and talking about how he's been forced to kick grass.
I was like, I feel like Darcy had some good. I couldn't think of her name. It took me a minute. Darcy from Thor.
Oh, yeah.
Like she had some good.
That's true, especially
When she would like take his pictures. Didn't she say like this is going on Facebook
Yeah.
or something?
oh yeah.
She had some good ones.
She kept going on about her iPod.
Yes, yes, her iPod.
Well, so
Oh,
many
the
songs.
The intern too. When I think in Thor 2 when they finally have the intern, and then Thor's hammer goes by and she goes meow meow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
So
I
many
feel like
good
the more
ones.
we talk, we just keep spitting them out.
There's so many
I know.
from
They're so
21
good.
movies that and honestly nobody mentioned Mother Flirkin. And
Yep.
that's just so great for Sam Jackson to be able to almost say it in a movie that they never let him say it in.
Yeah. Even like the Flying Monkeys reference.
Yes.
From Captain,
I understand
from
that
First
reference.
Avenger.
understand that reference. Damn it. That's
Or-
a good one.
Nick Fury, Loki's in the like glass cage, and he says, "Well, let me know if Real Power wants a magazine or something."
Nick Fury, when he says to Tony Stark, "I'm gonna have to ask you to exit the donut."
Yeah.
I don't want to join your super secret boy band.
Yeah.
Oh, what did we just say in Iron Man 3? He talks about somebody being in the Super Friends. He's talking. Is it when he's talking to Happy at the beginning? On
Yeah, he is.
The forehead of security.
yeah.
For
Yeah.
he does.
He
Yeah.
definitely says something about someone being in the Super Friends.
Yeah, you were
now.
all off of the Super Friends. Like, why do you need a bodyguard or
Oh,
something
yeah,
along
yeah,
those
yeah.
lines?
He has so many. There's so many good ones.
Yeah, this is one of those lists that'll constantly change. I'm sure we'll find more we haven't even thought of. And there's probably people listening that are screaming at us about ones we've missed.
add your comments to
Yeah, if there's any you liked
the
that we
media
didn't...
of choice that you are seeing this.
Yeah, Eric can comment.
Paula's been...
Yep.
Paula's been vocal too.
Yes. She's been keeping up. 2
of them can give us some Facebook comments. All right, so we'll wrap up the quotes with that. We'll go to... this was one we had we talked about this beforehand, that we sort of had a difficulty with. Personal trilogy. I don't know if some people were iffy if they had something together for this one. Did you guys come around with something? Did you have enough time to think of something? Should we do you last?
Yeah.
Do you last? Okay.
Definitely
all right, I'll
do
start
me
this one
last.
because these aren't going to change. So again, this was sort of like our thought was, out of the 21 movies in the MCU, what sort of trilogy do you lean towards for yourself? For me, the first movie I would pick to start with would be the first Avengers. Granted, it's nice having the lead up with the solo movies before that, but I think Avengers does a pretty good job of if that's your first MCU movie, it sets up all those characters fairly well. That you get a sense of who everyone is, where they're coming from, what's going on, and then I think since I'm such a fan of Cap and what they've done with Bucky, I sort of follow that storyline. So I go Winter Soldier next, end with Civil War. Mm-hmm. That's my trilogy. So there's just that whole through line of like it helps having the first Cap for that because you get the setup with him and Bucky. But I think just jumping into Winter Soldier after Avengers, I think you still could get that. I think it's still there's enough there. I think to get it, and just culminating in Civil War. It's such a good story for the two of them. And plus, it's a little bit of an Avengers reunion since you get more characters in Civil War too. So that's cool. Yeah. Anyway, that's me.
This was hard, but because it's hard to pick later ones at all without picking early ones to lead into it. But they kind of came out together too. Black Panther, then Thor, Ragnarok, then Infinity Wars. I like the way the stories, I feel like they're all necessary to see the sense of Infinity Wars. You have to see at least those stories for them to make, for like T'Challa's death or everything to actually make you feel something. You need to see Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
I like those two together.
That's fair.
I like it.
I go with what I call the Cosmic Trilogy, where I go Guardians 2, and then Thor Ragnarok. You get a good amount of humor and kind of the same tone throughout all three of those movies. You're not getting one story out of it. I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking to have fun for 3 movies.
Yeah.
And I think, I might change the order and maybe do Guardians and then Ragnarok, then Guardians 2. I don't know. But it's all just in the tone and the fun that you get to have for 6 hours or so.
Did you guys end up coming up with something?
I couldn't come up with one.
Okay.
But, yeah, I just couldn't. Because everything I could come up with was 4. I couldn't come up with anything that was 3. So.
And most of what I have is, I just couldn't find like a common through line.
Okay.
Enough for anything. If I really thought about it longer and dished around things, I might be able to. But this was the most challenging category for me.
Okay. All right, so we'll wrap it up. Last category, top 5 for your sort of personal favorites from the MCU, and we'll start at your number 5 and work up to your number 1. So do we want to start? Josh,
around the horn on this one?
All right, Josh, going
or
first.
Are we just going all at once still?
All at once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do your 5 and then
do our 5. All right.
Do you? My number 5 is the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4 is Iron Man. 3 rather. 3 is the first Avengers. 2 is Infinity War. And I still think this is single-handedly the best singular crafted and executed story they've put on screen so far is Winter Soldier.
I think that's fairly close to mine, actually.
Okay. I had 5 was Iron Man. Then I had Infinity War, Thor Ragnarok, Winter Soldier, and the Avengers. Although Captain Marvel's going to fit in there. I can't. It's too new.
How many times have you seen it?
I've only seen it twice,
Okay.
surprisingly. But I feel like it's gonna be in there somewhere
Repeat
for me.
viewings always help for this
Yeah.
stuff. Mike?
Fair enough. For number 5 for me is Guardians 2. Number 4 is Thor Ragnarok. Number 3 is Avengers. Number 2 is Guardians 1. And number 1 is Infinity War.
You are very cosmic in your selections.
They're fun. I they're more comic booky to me.
Okay.
And they're fun. I like fun. So, I recognize things like Winter Soldier should be on the list if I'm looking at it from a cinema aspect, but I'm not. I'm looking.
Yeah.
At it. If I ask myself right now, what do I want to watch? That's how I make up my list.
Gotcha. Leslie, but you didn't rank yours, so you're.
Oh, and I have 7.
Cut 2 of them.
No, but I can't because I have them next to the ones that I feel like they're on the same playing field with.
She's like Mike with these A and Bs.
We've broken most of the rules. This whole thing doesn't matter. Good.
All right, so Iron Man, the first one. I have Guardians 1 and Thor Ragnarok together because of the same feel, so I like watching them the same movie. And then I have Doctor Strange and Black Panther together because I love Doctor Strange, but I love Black Panther. I didn't want to kick either one off.
Got to make the tough
Spider-Man
decisions.
Homecoming and Infinity War.
Nice. Okay. 5 for me, Civil War. 4 is Iron Man. 3 is Infinity War. 2 is the first Avengers. Winter Soldier for me is still up top. There's just something about that spy thriller genre that I was really surprised to see it in a superhero movie, let alone a Captain America movie. So I dig that movie a lot.
Yeah.
So that concludes our lists. Everybody have fun?
Yay!
Lots of lists and fun.
All of our list episodes go very long. This is going to be a long episode.
We did have more things to list in this episode than we've ever had, I believe, on any other list episode.
That's true. Yeah, we've only done top 10s before.
Yeah, and this was like 10 top 3s and a top 5.
Yeah.
So.
And all those top 3s and everything for the
Top 10, 12,
Yeah.
15. Yeah.
So.
All right, so we got one more episode to go as our planned lead up to Endgame. We're going to go through some old predictions and theories and revisit those and see how right or mostly wrong we were for all that stuff. And that's it. So if you've enjoyed the show, stop by iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to share, subscribe, favorite the show. You can find us on Facebook. Search Bry Guy and Super Friends or go to facebook.com/BryGuySuperFriends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, comment on the episodes when we post them. That's a good way to get in touch with us. Feel free to try to email us, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. I probably will not check it, but maybe I should every so often, as we've discussed earlier. And you can tweet us at BGSuperFriends on Twitter. On behalf of Josh, Sarah, Mike, Leslie, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.